Hello, hello, hello. Chance is here. New daddy in the house. Okay. Happy Halloween, everyone. Happy Thursday. All right. Welcome in. Welcome in. My name is Kaylee. If you have not ever been here before, well, this is my channel. I like to talk about astrology. I like to read some tarot, and it's Halloween. So why not? I'm not doing anything. Um, I will be going over the new moon in Scorpio that'll be happening tomorrow. I'm going to be talking about the Mars Pluto opposition and a little bit about the Mars retrograde that's coming up. It is going to be an interesting new moon for sure. So we'll be talking about that. I've prepared a slideshow for you guys. And then I'd like to pull some cards, do a little bit of astrology. And if you would like a personal reading, by all means, instructions are in the description down below. By the way, if you're not subscribed, I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. We'll get there eventually, but that is one of my goals. And I just realized my camera is square. Whoops. I don't know how I did that, but oh, Jenny and baby. Congratulations, Chance and Jenny, on your brand new baby. Um, yeah, that's really exciting. I gotta say, I think I hit like peak pride moment myself when a few minutes, I don't know, maybe like hour after the birth of a baby, someone sends me the baby's chart. Like, what the what? So honored. That's so exciting. Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm excited for you guys and really honored to be a part of the process. So, yeah. Okay, let's get started. Ooh, which file is it? Trick question. I think this one. Oh, I know. So, welcome in. Let's talk about the Scorpio new moon. So, new moon tomorrow. Of course, the moon is dark now, but we might as well talk about it now. Happy Halloween, Kelly. Oh, very weird. Ooh, spooky. That emoji's cute. Thank you. So, spooky holiday followed by a spooky new moon. So the new moon in Scorpio tomorrow is at the 9th degree of Scorpio and the first decan of Scorpio, which happens to be another double Mars decan. So the sign is ruled by Mars. The decan is Mars. Mars. It's all Mars. And where is Mars right now? Well, Mars is at right now he's at 28 degrees, but tomorrow he'll be at the 29th or anaretic degree of Cancer, opposing Pluto. This is the last aspect between Mars and Pluto before Pluto leaves Capricorn for the next 250 odd years. So wave goodbye. This is the first of three oppositions between Mars and Pluto. This is the last one that'll be on this axis of Cancer and Capricorn, though. So that is a big deal. I really want to have music playing in the background, but I can't. Okay. I don't know if I can get it where you guys can hear it too and not be distracting. So I don't know. I'm gonna play with a couple of options while we're going here. So excuse the experimentation. But all right, so let's talk a little bit more about this new moon. Okay. Hello, Jimmit. Happy Halloween. Ooh, more ghost emojis. All right, so main, huge, massive feature of this new moon is we're looking at this really intense opposition. Um, Fun fact, the song I'm listening to in the background, the line she just said as I brought this up was staring at you across the room. That's so wild. So a couple of difficult things about this new moon and about these aspects right now in the sky is well, Mars is opposing Pluto. It's not exactly a fun transit. It can be really intense. It can be really explosive for some people. Especially if you happen to be one of the folks that has a cardinal sign on the rising, or you have a planet at the 29th degree of one of the cardinal signs. That's also going to be really intense for you. Both of the benefics are not looking at this opposition. They're looking at each other. So actually you'll notice I have on the screen highlighted the Mars Pluto opposition, but if you look at the Gemini and Sagittarius axis, Venus is applying to oppose Jupiter. So we have this on the mutable axes, there's like this super nice, really positive aspect happening, this Venus Jupiter opposition. So there's like this hope and joy and excitement and luxuriousness and comfort and gifts and all of this really beautiful, lovely, soft energy. And then right next to it, right next door, there's this intense and fiery and passionate and deeply transformative and dangerous but sexy energy right next door. For some people, especially if you have a really intense mutable signature in your chart, you might not even notice the Mars Pluto opposition that much. You're more likely to see it happening around you, or coming at you from the outside. If you have a cardinal sign on the rising, or you happen to have a planet right in that last 3 degrees of a cardinal sign, you're more likely to feel the Mars Pluto thing. So I think this is really intense. And of course, we're in like a crazy week for the US, with the election week coming up. And I think that this is a really interesting signature where we have these two totally polar opposite energies. And it's like you have one segment of the population, for those that are feel like paying attention to the elections anyway, you have one segment of the population that's like over elated and super excited and happy with what the outcome is, and the other segment of the population that has this really dark, not so happy betrayal signature playing out as well. So it's really it's it's kind of intense. I have up on the screen the 3 dates of the Mars Pluto oppositions. So the very first one is on the 3rd. So 2 days after the new moon, we have this Cancer Capricorn axes being lit up by the first opposition. And this story of Mars and Pluto is not finished playing out until April. So Mars is slowing down, will oppose Pluto, move into Leo. And as soon as Mars moves into Leo, there's like this disruption of that energy. It's like there's a little bit of relief actually, because Mars is going from this place of feeling like it needs to be protective and it needs to be like really well, I guess just protective is the best way to say it. It has to be really protective while it's in Cancer, and then all of a sudden it can go with pride and self-assurance as soon as it moves into Leo. So there's this boost of confidence that occurs. This, while I don't need to worry about the home so much anymore, I'm just going to go and conquer once Mars moves into Leo. And it's away from that Pluto opposition. But Mars is slowing down. Mars will station to retrograde, move back, and then right as Mars gets to the 1st degree of Aquarius, there's that opposition again as as Pluto has moved into Aquarius at that point. Second opposition occurs, bam, super not fun, I know, but this is the middle point of the story between these two. Mars will move back into Cancer, go back to the 17th degree, and actually, let me show you that. Bam, go back to the 17th degree of Cancer, station direct, and move forward again. It's 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 a long drawn out story between these two, but we're here for it. I really feel like this Mars retrograde in particular coming up is like clearing the way. We're clearing the plate. We're burning some old habits away. We're burning some it's like we're choosing to, if you choose to, we're choosing to burn away some old story and we're finishing and closing a book. What's up, Ronan? Good to hear you. It is really interesting times. I'm really grateful to be alive. What a fantastic story to be witnessing unfold. It's a great time to be an astrologer. It's a great time to be alive. I'm here for it. Ever since 2020, honestly, the astrology has been really, really literal. And it has been a great time to learn it because I have the privilege of being able to watch really wild things unfold and have access to all this information and people sending me stories and news articles of all the things happening all at once. It could be a little bit overwhelming, but here we are. So if you have a planet within the first 5 to 7 degrees of one of the fixed signs, especially if it's right around 4, 5, or 6 degrees of the fixed signs, or if you have a planet within the last 10 degrees of a cardinal sign, this Mars retrograde is going to impact you very strongly. I've highlighted them on the screen for you. I thought that was nice. Um, yeah, just soak in that visual representation for a minute. Just playing with my music back here. Hold on a minute. Ooh, there we go. Okay. By the way, if anybody has been if anybody has a really interesting story to share about Mars and Cancer, I'd love to hear it. Personally for me, is it on the slides here? No, it's not. Okay, personally for me, I'll bring myself back up here for a sec. So I have a Capricorn rising chart, meaning that Cancer is on my seventh house, the house of relationships and one-on-one interactions and all this lovely stuff. I personally have Mars in Cancer in the seventh house. So this is a really strong signature for me personally. Um, and I've noticed several really interesting Mars centric events unfolding around me that have been really fascinating. Let's see if is it okay to share some of those? Just gotta kind of think about that for a second. I really want to share, like, I'm so excited to share different stories, but it needs to be appropriate. So just let me think about it for a second. Okay, I'll put it like this. I have noticed in my own personal life the Mars and Cancer energy come up in a few different ways. I've seen it play out with the birth of babies, Jenny and Chance in the chat. Beautiful, phenomenal, phenomenal energy signature. Mars and the moon in Cancer speaks to the fight to birth a baby and to protect that baby. I think that's so beautiful. I've got chills right now. That is like the peak the peak of the positive expressions of Mars in Cancer. I've also seen it play out where um, more than one individual, female individual in particular, has been talking to me about interpersonal dynamics that are difficult to navigate and like asking my advice on how to navigate them or seeking support or whatever. So That's actually another really interesting way that Mars and Cancer can play out. When you have a planet that's in fall, Mars is in fall in Cancer. Um, Sometimes the individual with that energy becomes a sort of advocate for the people that experience the negative side of that energy. So, in my case, because I've experienced some really intense relationship stuff, I am now somewhat of an advocate and a support for other people that are going through that same thing. So it's like now in my nativity, it's like, okay, now I'm advocating and fighting for other people. I've also seen it come up in in my own life. I've been, how do I put this in a way that is okay for the publicity? I've been granted, how do I put this? I have a mostly American audience, so this is okay, but I've been granted um my gun license. So it's weird to say that out loud, but anyway, I live in Canada, so you actually have to apply for a license. But anyway, it's it's really interesting because I had to talk to an authority figure about past events and how I'm doing now in order to be granted this thing that allows me to feel protected in some way. And it's a very Martian signature. And I'm not really, um, I know people will have different reactions and different opinions about firearms, but it's just it's a very Martian signature and it's kind of it's a novel thing for me. But anyway, okay, let's see. Ronan says, just being, just get in the flow, leaving the old stuff in the rear view, purging. Capricorn, or not Capricorn, Scorpio is all about the purge. Oh man, 2025 is going to be an interesting year, man. There is every every single um outer planet is changing signs in 2025. Before 2025 and then in 2025. It's going to be really intense. I don't know, this is kind of bugging me. I don't like the square. Can I change it? Nope, I can't change it while we're live, I don't think. Not without messing it up. Okay, so let's go back to this new moon. When we have a new moon signature, of course, we're talking about the planting of a seed. We are talking about a new cycle being born or a new chapter to write, right? Um, with this really intense Mars Pluto signature going on that will be unfolding for the next several months, this new moon and this lunar cycle in particular is really like um, it carries much more weight than you would think of for just like a lunar cycle. It's not just any old plain new moon. It's a new moon with this like really intense unfolding Mars energy. And usually we think of Mars as like this really fast moving energy, but it's actually slowing down right now. Slowing down and preparing to turn retrograde. So there's this added frustration and this idea of like this this idea and this energy of wanting to get something done now, wanting to finish it now, but you can't. You have to wait. And if you feel like you've wrapped it up now, let me tell you, you haven't. Mars hasn't turned retrograde yet. You're going to revisit this several times over. But we can plant the seed at least. We can plant the seed at least. Okay. Side note, I just got a picture. I just got a picture of somebody that dressed up as Trump for Halloween, so that's hilarious. Oh, man. Okay. Yeah, what are you guys doing for Halloween? Why are you out here? Why are you here hanging out with me? Oh, man. I kinda miss trick-or-treating. I think I just miss being a kid and doing kid stuff. So, up where I live, story time before we go back to the new moon. Up where I live in Canada, it's really fucking cold. Newsflash, it's cold in Canada. I grew up, um, where every single year we had to make sure that our our costumes could cover or go over a snowsuit. So, just in case, because it could snow before Halloween. Yeah, Jim, and I'm glad you're here too. So, if it snowed on Halloween or before Halloween, we had to make sure that we were warm enough to actually go trick or treating. So it's wild to me watching movies where you see these girls walking around and all this skimpy stuff. I'm like, is it not cold there? I guess not. No. Chance, that's not fair, okay? Baby pictures, I can't share that with the internet. That's your prerogative to share with the internet. This doesn't feel fair to me right now. Oh, I did a pumpkin patch. So sweet. Jenny knows what's up. She's from here. But yeah, so anyway, be like, okay, I have this cat costume, but like you have to pin the cat tail onto your snow pants, and it's not a sexy cat because you're in snow pants, and that's Halloween in Canada, folks. Like, yeah, you got those cool shoes for your costume, but you have to wear snow boots. Um, oh man, first world distractions, first world problems. Michelin Man Halloween costume. Yes. Oh man, so good. Mm. Yeah. Okay. So where was I? Scorpio new moon. There's a really intense Mars signature. I really don't want to talk about Mars, but I have to. So let me pull my cards 1 second. Let's talk about Scorpio for a second. So Scorpio is traditionally ruled by Mars, right? This is Mars's water, feminine, yin temple is a fixed or a solid sign. And what that means really is that the the quality of light when it comes to Scorpio season is constant. Darkness is dominating at this point, but not only is darkness dominating, there's not really much change in the way of levels of darkness and light. It's just darkness is dominating the end. We're not at the darkest point in the season yet, but we're definitely getting there. Okay, let's see if I can find the card that represents this decan, this first decan of Scorpio. So this is represented by the Five of Cups. All of the Scorpio decans, by the way, deal with desire and whether we can actually satiate that desire or not. And does our does our drive to satisfy that desire actually lead us to destruction or not? Sometimes we realize that it's not worth it. Sometimes we realize that we can't. Sometimes we actually do get lost in the sweetness and then realize that we actually don't want it anymore. So the 5 of Cups, the Lord of loss and pleasure. Yeah. Fun, right? So fun. So much fun. Have you ever eaten something that tasted so good, but you got sick of it because you just had too much of it? Okay, when it comes to Halloween candy, ooh, this is perfect. When it comes to Halloween candy, or candy in general, all right. I have my favorite candy, all right. I'm a, I'm a husky lady, okay. I've definitely I have my favorite candy, and it's actually mini eggs. It's not a Halloween candy at all. But anyway, have you ever eaten something that's so sweet or just so delicious to you at first, and then you finally get to the point while you're eating that thing where it doesn't even taste like it should anymore, like with mini eggs? After eating them for a little bit, it just tastes like corn syrup. I don't even think corn syrup is on the ingredients, but it doesn't matter. It gets to the point where it doesn't even taste good anymore, even though it's still releasing dopamine, it's still sugary, it's still chocolatey, it's still all of these things that make it taste good to begin with, but you've crossed the point where it's not good anymore. This is the realization of this first decan, where you can eat and consume all you want, but there does come a point of realization where you're suddenly in this just in this recognition, in this energy of like, oh, actually, I'm always going to be hungry. I can have all the steaks in the world, but I'm always going to be hungry again tomorrow. So like the solution isn't to just not eat, but it's just to recognize that in that desire itself, there is something there that needs to be acknowledged as something that can't always be chased all of the time. It can't always be satisfied all of the time because it never actually will be at the end of the day. This is a realization and a core concept of this first decan of Scorpio. Not all desires should be satisfied. Not all of them are actually good. And of course, with Halloween candy, perfect example. It's terrible for you. It'll make your teeth go bad and cause fungal overgrowth and you know, diabetes. There's all of this. There's these cascades of issues that come with satisfying the desire for candy. Just perfect example. Halloween night. Why not? What's up, old world McMac? How you doing? Happy Halloween. Mm. So, the 5 of Cups comes in, right? This first decan of Scorpio, where the new moon is. I really think that with the Mars retrograde and the Mars Pluto opposition, we are. Oh, what's up, Zarla? Hey. We are really asked to look at some of those desires, some of those things that we want to chase, that we want to satisfy so badly, that really are destructive to us at the end of the day. What are they? And can they be uprooted a little bit? Can they be burned away a little bit? So anyway, Mars retrograde, use that energy, brother. Okay, but rant over. By the way, I'm curious. I back in the day, y'all were teasing me a lot for dropping the word responsibility all the time. I don't think I said it once until just now, so screw all of you. But anyway. All right, let's bring this back up. So like I said, if you have a planet in the first 5 degrees of a fixed sign or the last 15 to 17 to about 20 degrees of a cardinal sign, the Mars retrograde is going to be in particular quite potent for you. Um, as we're speaking right now, let me go back a slide. As we're speaking right now, Mars is pretty much at the end of Cancer. He's 28 degrees right now, about to be 29. So I would actually say that if you have picked up on any major themes over the last couple of weeks especially, but the last month definitely, um, that feel Martian in particular, that feel maybe confrontational, that feel like maybe there's, yeah, great. Thanks. If you're not doing anything tonight, there you go. Anyway, thanks, gents. Yeah, if you have a planet or a personal point, so I'm talking about your rising degree, your setting degree, your IC or MC, or the sun, the moon, or another personal planet in those last 20 degrees of a cardinal sign, especially, or sorry, the last 10 degrees definitely. um, what themes have been coming up for you? Because you're likely to revisit them a few times. Okay. Yeah, Jenny, how do you like that font? I have fallen in love with this new font. It's the shit. Mars will station retrograde on December 6th at 6 degrees of Leo and will move back slow as fuck and not station direct until February 23rd at 17 degrees of Cancer. And then Mars is not actually going to leave Cancer for another month at least. The last the slide no, sorry. The last opposition between Mars and Pluto isn't until April 26th. And at that opposition, it'll be at 3 degrees of Aquarius, 3 degrees of Leo in Aquarius. So this is a really long drawn out way of saying that this is a long and drawn out story that we're entering. It's going to be kind of an intense winter. I'm not going to lie. But yeah, let's get into some readings. If you are an Aries rising, the new moon is happening in your 8th house. And with these slides in particular, I decided to include some of the Hellenistic and maybe a little bit of the modern ideas or keywords around the houses. So in Hellenistic astrology, the 8th house is called the gate of Hades. It is an idle place. And what that means, an idle place, is it means that it's a place that is slow to develop. It doesn't mean that there's no movement at all. It's just that it's slow as fuck. It's slow to develop. And the gate of Hades, there's two. The second and the 8th house are both called the gate of Hades, just to be extra spooky right out the gate. Of course, you're welcome. The 8th house is known as something, or something is known as that which bears us down. It is our shared resources and obligations to other people. It's also other people's esteem. It is our karmic ties, our karmic connections. So the 8th house with the new moon here, I want you to consider, especially since Mars is your ruling planet, Aries, and we are talking about a really a really long and drawn out process that you're going through right now. We are talking about assessing some of your karmic ties and what you want to build with other people. It might be that with this Mars Pluto opposition and the Mars retrograde that will be happening through your 5th and 4th houses, that you're looking at some of the things that have previously brought you pleasure that you need to kind of reorient your relationship with the 5th house, and how that ties into your family and your roots and your ancestry with Mars retrograding through your 4th. What kind of ties do you have karmically or materially? Which actually, I guess they're the same thing, but you know what I mean. What kind of ties do you have with other people? What is owed and what might be owed to you that um, somehow ties into your property and what anchors you down? Just some keywords for you to think about. I think this new moon in particular will be really helpful for just assessing like, hey, are there things, specifically fifth house things, Mars retrograding through the fifth, that I need to develop a better relationship with that maybe are not necessarily healthy for me at this time. And for some of you, it might actually just be like, hey, I want to create some new ties, or I've just created some new ties, some new bonds, some new contracts, so to speak, some new karmic ties. And how do I need to reorient my attitude around protection? Looking at you, Jenny G. Uh, if you like, this could go either way, right? This could go, e- e- especially with Mars and with Mars retrograding, this can go either way. It can be either I need to reorient my attitude in a positive or a negative way. And honestly, with Mars, it's probably both. There's often deconstruction at the same time as construction is happening. I feel like I haven't used this deck on camera in a really long time. If you Aries, I feel like there's actually a fair amount going on for you guys behind the scenes and underneath the surface, and it's okay if a lot of that stays private. Sorry, I feel like this deck really needed a, a really good shuffle. And this keeps popping out. The Wheel of Fortune. I barely even looked at Jupiter for you guys. Let me bring that up back up. Hold on. I think in the most simple of ways, especially since we're starting with a cardinal sign rising, you could say that the Wheel of Fortune is representing some pretty major shifts and turns in your life. I would I wouldn't be surprised to see you change your mind significantly on a couple of different matters. Um, as Mars is going through the retrograde process. So just, I don't know, I would say stay open-minded because you never know. There could very well be some major detours, but those detours, considering the themes of the Wheel of Fortune, those detours could be really beneficial in the long run, though it might not seem that way at first. Dang. Okay. The other two cards that I got for you, Aries, are Justice and the Universe. Okay, right out the gate, really strong signature. Wow. There's a finality and a necessity to confrontation. Of course, I'm talking Aries, you know this, but um, even when, like, in the context of relationships, in the context of trying to create balance and equality in or I guess balance and equal relationships, there's a necessity for confrontation and for bringing things to the surface and addressing them in a healthy way that is really necessary. And I don't want to sleep on the fact that both of these cards actually have a Saturn signature. The universe representing Saturn, and of course, justice being a Libra card, Saturn is exalted in Libra. So there's a really heavy Saturn signature here. Mm. Telling me that it's time to be grounded. Aries, I think this is asking you to be really realistic about what you need and what your partner needs in order for both of you to feel properly taken care of, in order for both of you to feel safe and comfortable and protected in your home, right? Mars will be retrograding back through your fourth house. What you and your partner both need to feel safe and protected emotionally as well. Mars through Cancer can be really highly volatile and sensitive energy, which is not a bad thing, but I think it'll be important to protect yourself and your family, your general family's emotional integrity and emotional vulnerability. Um, You might be called to be the one that is the rock at this time. You might be the one that is asked to be, um, or it needs to be at a necessity, the strong one. Um, that's a big possibility too. So yeah, it's interesting this idea of like give and take and equality in relationships. It's never always perfectly 50-50. It's often like 60-40, 70-30, and then like it flips. And that's just how it goes. Because not everybody is always 100% all the time. So there's going to be times where you're the strong one or they're the strong one and vice versa. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. That's the ebb and flow of life. Um yeah, just some things to chew on, some things to marinate on for you. Yeah, 8th house sun in the Placidus system. And I think that I mean, there's truth to the Placidus system. I just because I've been so deeply immersed in the Hellenistic, I'm like, 9th house all the way, baby. But but yeah, no, there's truth to that. And the 8th house sun and like an Aries 8th house sun is fascinating because Aries sun is like me, my way, independence, free bird. But in the 8th house, you have to pay attention to other people's values and other people's resources and other people's desires. It's like that's just how it goes. You have to. Um, and that's a major lesson. So even while you want to be on this plot line of like, I'm the main character, now you have other main characters with you. It's more like a team exercise. Anyway. Hey Matthew, welcome back. Welcome back. This is not gonna last me. I'm gonna need to go get more water, guys. Not yet. Excuse me. Okay. Oh man, nothing like a spam phishing text while you're in the middle of streaming about Scorpio and talking about betrayal and dark themes. That's awesome. Nice. Okay. Not today, suckers. Mm. Ooh, okay. Um, before I go on to Taurus, Chance sent me a PayPal, so I am totally gonna do a live transit look. Let's look at the new daddy's chart. Aw. Okay, hold on. That's exciting. All right, let me. Oh yeah, really? Ooh. Yeah, it's for like I'm not even opening the text. It's for ticket transport service unsettled. Okay. Y'all right. Okay. About to. Whoa! Freaky. Yeah, good luck. Nice try. Just mass text. So they had your number and my number on the same list somehow. Nice. Nice try. Okay. All right. Let me open. I'm looking up Chance's birth chart. Hold on. I know you can't hear my music, but I am dancing right now. So, Chance, I have been using Placidus with you in the past, but just to switch it up, and because I've been hardcore in the Hellenistics for a little while, we're gonna do a Hellenistic style just because I think it'll be. I think honestly, I look at my chart both ways. I think it's valuable to take a different perspective, especially if you've been looking at it with one house system for a really long time. Switching it up and looking at it from a totally different perspective, it can be illuminating. I don't think I've opened it in whole house for a while, or whole sign for a while. Ooh, fun. Okay. Buddy, buddy. You're about to have some crazy transits. Okay, hold on. Let me show y'all what I'm looking at. Thanks, Mel. Hey, oh, hey. It's all in the lighting, all right? Thank you. Sorry, I'm terrible at taking compliments. I'm working on that. I appreciate you. Okay, so before I move on to Taurus, I just looked at Aries, but Chance has sent me a just catch everybody else up to date. Chance sent me a thing for a transit reading, so I'm going to if you guys send me stuff, I'm going to put them in between the signs so that it's not midnight and I'm just getting to the the personal readings. 'Cause y'all know I can get long-winded. So, let's bring this up. Hey, Stace. Hey, Stacy. Chance, you have a beautiful baby. Okay, so everybody, this is Chance's chart. Um, if you are part of the Universe chat, you might know me as the court astrologer, which I think is fucking hilarious because Chance has a Leo rising, so he's the king. The sun is his chart or his first house ruler. The first lord is the sun, and he has it in an exalted sign. It's exalted in Aries, so the king literally is sitting in the best. The king is in his castle, literally king of the fucking castle, in the ninth house, which is the sun's joy. So of course he needs a quarter shoulder. Duh. It makes me laugh every time. Okay, I wanna see the comments. Donut, new moon in the house. What's up, buddy? Oh, yes, let's not forget, Jenny is literally perfect, okay. Okay, so Chance, couple things before I even pull up, um, the bi-wheel to show you guys what I'm seeing, I can talk about a couple of things. So first of all, I know Neptune is sitting right here. So you've had Neptune right on top of your Venus for a little bit. He's been, like, doing this dance back and forth on top of Venus. I gotta pause my music. It's just distracting enough. Alright, so Neptune has been on top of your Venus in the 8th house, adding this touch of magic and mysticism into your relationships. Um, Beautiful, absolutely beautiful energy. Now, uh, I remember that I remember Jupiter moving through here and Jupiter joining with your Venus was a really important time period for when you were starting and developing your relationship with Jenny. And I think that is really beautiful that now you're you brought this like magical soul into the world as Neptune is joining with your Venus. So that's really cool. Yeah, get it. Also, if you have not subscribed and you're here, please hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 1,000 people. I think we can do it. So I think that's really cool. Next year, okay, I will bring up the bi-wheel, I promise, but let's just talk about this first. So next year, Neptune will dip its toes, so to speak, into Aries, and Saturn will also move into Aries. Saturn's going to retrograde back into Pisces and then go back into Aries for good. So you're going to have Neptune and Saturn both on top of your sun for quite a while, like right around your birthday actually. It's like birthday major transits to your sun. So there is going to be this simultaneous um I mean Neptune is about dissolving and Saturn is about solidifying. So it's literally dissolve et coagula on top of your sun. Like that is a really wild signature. Um, what it means to be a person of authority, what it means to be, I mean, this is a highly spiritual house too. It's literally called the house of God. Um, because it's the sun's joy. Uh, what it means to be a leader of a community, what it means to be a spiritual figure, your relationship with your own father, like all of these things that are tied to the sun are going to go through some really, really interesting reconfigurations. And honestly, I feel like a huge part of that is just you're a dad now, so it's like there's this whole new world opening up in terms of the things that you have to take care of, and also the sun represents your plot line, your major plot points in life and the story arc of your main character role. It's like, yeah, yeah, dude, you better that's it, exactly. Uh, it's like this huge shift is going to occur in, uh, a lot of the main goals of your life. Like, up until now, it's like, I wanna have this consciousness podcast, I want to go full-time doing podcasting and doing what I love and doing art and showing people how to do exactly that and top hop and all this stuff, and that's totally cool. And now it's gonna shift, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like, I mean, I'm actually kind of excited for you because this Neptune Saturn energy on top of your sun is going to be both mystifying and bewildering and exciting, while at the same time being like, wow, this is reality. It's like this really is reality. Um, is there a veil? Where's the veil? Yeah, so that's really cool. That's really cool. All right, let's actually pull up the bi wheel. Boring. Who needs that anyway? Okay, that's exciting. Um, So your whole sign 5th house. Actually, okay, this is really cool. This is really cool. I want to show you. Let's let's scroll back to baby's birthday. Uh, well, that's embarrassing. I forget what day it was. Awkward. The 23rd, right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, this is cool. So, baby's birthday. Na, 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 na. Okay, sorry. So really neat. Venus. So I heard from one of my teachers right before Venus moved into Sagittarius that Venus in Sagittarius brings gifts. And I thought that was so beautiful. And then here we are, Venus in Sag in your 5th house, and you get a gift. But kind of cool that at the same time, there's this opposition to your natal Mars. So, natal Mars rules your 4th house of family, literally your household, and your 9th house of like spirituality and religion and all that stuff. So, you have Venus activating your natal placement of the 4th house and the 9th house. But in particular, the 4th house is speaking very loudly. Sun had just moved into your 4th house. Um, so actually that's pretty cool. So Sun had just moved into the 4th house. Mercury was right on top of your Pluto, and then bam, baby's born. Really, really cool. So Venus, it's like Venus activating that Mars is like, here's a gift. And what's really cool is that gift was given to you by somebody that you met online, very Gemini signature. Um, and like I don't know how I'm not 100% clear on how Jenny found the community and how you 2 started talking, but I think that that's kinda cool, and I also think that it's really beautiful, the Mars in the 11th placement because it speaks to having a really active, um, fan base, if that makes sense. So that's kinda neat. But anyway, had the baby, boom, you're also sharing gifts with everybody because 'cause you're bombarding everybody with baby pictures, and I'm not even mad about it, okay? So that's kinda cool. Um, Also, Venus was sextiling your natal moon. Moon can speak to your wife, can speak to family in a more general sense, so that's kinda cool too. Nice little nod to the moon. Um, yeah, I remember this is fun, thanks. I really feel like I kind of feel like I'm cheating a little bit because I know so much of your story, but I don't know everything, obviously, but I know a lot. I also kind of feel like this is just the Neptune is speaking so loudly because Neptune on the Venus. I remember asking you like, "How's baby's health? How's mama's health? How did it go?" And I know that Jenny had a water birth. Well, hello, water sign. I know Jenny had a water birth, and there's this like really mystical signature right on top of your natal Venus, which again I had pointed out as a really important planet in your nativity for the development of your relationship with Jenny. So that's really cool. It's speaking so loudly. Um, and then other transits were activating that Venus as well. So that's kind of neat. Fun, fun, fun. Yeah, buddy. I mean, what did you want to know? All you said is live transit look. I mean, okay, we looked at baby's birthday a little bit. Let me roll forward into next year a little bit just to show you how this goes down. Too far. Mm. So you can see Saturn creeping up. Ah! Fair enough. Chad says, "I just wanted you to proclaim how great my life is." Word. Uh, I'll show you this too. Okay, so still at 28. There's like this massive pile up all on top of your natal Venus, which is wild. Mercury's there, the node is there. Yeah, your next birthday is gonna be crazy. Um, and then Mercury passes Neptune, moves into Aries. Oh, come on, Neptune. Come on. I guess I could go a week at a time, not a day. Got excited. Then Sun creeps up, and then Sun moves into Aries. And then right after Sun moves into Aries, Venus moves into Aries. Venus is retrograde, my bad. The Venus Cazimi happens right on top of your Sun next year. That's fun. Oh, it's gonna be fucking crazy. Come on. There it is. Bam. So Sun's in there, Neptune moves in there. You'll notice Saturn is at 25 degrees. Saturn pretty much moseys in there right after Neptune, just a few weeks later. There's Venus. Again, huge pile up at the end of Pisces. Dun, 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 dun. Venus joins with Neptune. Come on. Bam. There it is. So by May, end of May, we've got Saturn and Neptune in Aries. Whoa, craziness. And you'll see if you look at the other planets here. Um, you're also going to have a major activation from Uranus as soon as Uranus moves into Gemini. That'll be intense. That happens like a few weeks after that. And then Jupiter will move into Cancer, where Jupiter's exalted, by the way. So tons of outer planet changes all in a very short time span. Next year is going to be crazy. But in particular, I'm really interested in how this is going to be interacting with your natal sun. And also because Jupiter is right at the first degree of Gemini for you, it's like there's this really interesting dynamic. But anyway, we should sit down for like a proper reading so I can actually ask you some questions about some of the context going on there, and then I can give you some proper predictions. But I think that that's really fascinating. The I don't drink Gatorade. Yeah, the retrograde and then, like, that Venus retrograde and then Venus being right in there in the mix while those 2 planets are making their ingresses into Aries. Just intense. Um, but yeah, we should do a trade, actually. I keep meaning to book with you, and then I keep getting sidetracked by life, but it's garbage anyway. Okay, I gotta keep going, but that's fun. Yeah, all in all, I'm excited for you. Congratulations. Your life is pretty fucking cool. And I'm really I'm looking forward to touching base with you and seeing how like the Neptune Saturn dynamic plays out over top of your sun. I think it's really interesting. So anyway, did I just see Cozy Crone in the house? Hey girl. Uh, Sup, Andy? Hey. Yeah, buddy. Thank you. Thank you for your support. I appreciate you so much. And we missed you. I take on Brandy. Yeah. Would it even be Halloween if I wasn't streaming? Like, come on. Alright, where are we at? We're only on the second sign. Fuck. It's gonna take a while. Okay, that's fine. Taurus. Taurus. So, for you guys, the new moon in Scorpio will be in your 7th house, which the 7th house is just called the descendant. It doesn't have any fun, cool names like the Gate of Hades or anything like that. Uh, it's just the descendant. Like, wow. So creative, guys. But this is the place where the sun goes to set. It is most commonly associated with our relationships, with marriage and things like that, but it's also symbolizing sex and death. And really, modern astrologers have got everybody all fucked up. They're like, oh, the eighth house is death. No, 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 no. The eighth house is fear of death. The eighth house can be death, but really, it's actually the seventh house is the finality, the ending of death, because that's where the sun sets, literally. So, good times. So, anyway, Taurus. With this 7th house new moon and it activating, this really intense Mars-Pluto signature that is, um that will be spanning and activating your 4th and 10th house. This will be really, a little bit more intense of a new moon and a cycle for you. Now, if you missed the beginning of the stream, I did go over a little bit of timeline about the Mars retrograde period itself and the three connections that it's making opposing Pluto during the retrograde process. There is a um, this is definitely going to be significant if you are a Taurus rising. So this new moon is kind of like, I mean, yeah, you can use it to like set some intentions and do some nice like light fluffy things, but really it's not a light new moon. It's really going to be about well, what do you desire in a healthy relationship, Taurus? This first decan of Scorpio being so tied to desire and realizing that not all desires are actually ones that you want to fulfill all of the time. Yeah, I know flipped it again. I should just alternate and go back and forth. Yeah, I know, I know, I know. I got lazy with my template. That's all. uh, anyway, what do you desire in a healthy relationship? Um, as Mars is turning retrograde in your 4th house, this might bring up some stuff around, your ancestry and your family. Uh, for last time we went forward too, okay? This might bring up some stuff with your family, with your ancestry. What what needs to be kinda, like, protected and defended there, right? That's the signature of Mars. But as Mars retrogrades back into your 3rd house with this which is also where this first opposition between Mars and Pluto is happening. The 3rd house is actually more associated with, like, our short distance travel, our neighbors, our neighborhood itself. So I really feel like the Mars-Pluto opposition for you guys is not going to be as intense until it crosses the sign boundaries into your 4th and 10th house. I feel like you're more likely to first witness it in your peripherals and the people around you. And then as the Mars retrograde actually occurs and the 2nd and 3rd activations pop off in your 4th and 10th house, that's when you're more likely to witness things happen in your personal life where it's like, okay, things in my home and with authority figures or things in my career and with my family are really intense right now. So just kind of keep an eye out as this first opposition occurs, because it is technically in a different sign, but the energy is going to carry through it, regardless. So And really, the new moon itself comes down to, who do you want beside you while the craziness happens, while the craziness goes down? Who do you want beside you? Who do you want your apocalypse partner to be, Taurus? That's the question. No, Stacy, you did not miss Cancer. Who do you want your apocalypse partner to be? Okay, some cards just flipped. What's that? Ooh, I like that. Ace of motherfucking cups. Taurus. Okay, okay. You want a apocalypse partner? Apocalypse? It's weird to say it like that. I can't do it. Okay, there we go. I needed the context. Hello, Mars. I was like, Ace of Cups. Yes, that's nice, but what else? Tower. There we go. Okay. Um, I've never known this deck to be light and fluffy. Sorry. I'm sorry. S- Let me stay focused here. Sometimes you guys in the chat are way too distracting. Taurus. With the Ace of Cups coming out and then the Tower coming out, I really feel like this new moon and the upcoming Mars stuff is really going to be about how do you provide the most care for yourself and how do you fill your own cup, regardless of whatever is happening outside of you. I feel like there's likely going to be some kind of major breaking point or boiling point where you're kind of just coming to the realization of um, this is what I have desired up until now, and this is what I'm actually getting out of these relationships or situationships for some of you, and maybe it's time to change that pattern. So sometimes the tower can be a very intense jolt, uh, a one-time event of intensity. Sometimes it's more of it doesn't always have to be like a lightning bolt to the fucking face, like how it's depicted on the card. It doesn't always have to be that cataclysmic, but sometimes it is. I think maybe this would be a really nice time period while we're on this Halloween night and with tomorrow being the new moon to just kind of really reflect on what your true values are in a relationship and what you want to get out of them. And if those patterns are actually helpful for you and if they actually help you anchor it down, and if they're going to help you build the home and the base and the foundation that you're really looking for. Speaking of that Mars retrograde and direct motion through your fourth house. Oh, Stacy, I'm not gonna get anywhere tonight. That's fine. Okay, Stacy wants to do a reading too. We can do that. Stacy, that'll be fun. I haven't opened your chart in quite a while. Okay, so before we move on to Gemini, it's gonna take me a long time to get through these signs, but that's okay. I'm going to open Stacy's chart. Stacy, did you have a question that you wanted to ask, or do you want me to just see what I see in the transits, or just look at the new moon, or Do you have anything in particular that you want me to look at? Health of family members is something that's popping up to my mind, but you let me know so I can kinda determine, um what direction I take it. Okay, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that just so that we can keep moving, and then I'll get to Cancer, and then I'll do your reading, especially since you have a Cancer stellium. I think that fits really nicely, and that's very kind of you. Okay, let's do that. Gemini. Gemini. Take that down. Alright. So, don't freak out, Gemini. Don't freak out, please. I don't know if this is a good idea or not, but at the same time, astrology is kind of a little bit gothic, and we are on Halloween night, aren't we? But, the title of the 6th house, what it is called in Hellenistic astrology is bad fortune. Dun, dun, dun. Uh, the 6th house, it's not a fun house. It represents everything that we toil for. It represents our daily service and our sacrificial work. It is tied to health and illness. Um, the 6th house is, oddly enough, also representative of our pets, you know? Um but anyway, with this new moon happening in the 6th house, um, this could really be like, it it could be representative of so many different things because the 6th house is a complex and kind of hard to talk about house. So really what I would actually focus on is, um, how the Mars retrograde is going to affect you. So this could be a new cycle for you starting where you're realizing what kind of habits you have that are really helpful for you and are detrimental for you, specifically around how you commute to work, the neighbors and the culture locally that you get involved in. That's third house themes. But also when it comes to the second house where Mars is retrograding into Cancer, what you consume on a daily basis, your values and ideas around money. And since we have this second, sixth house combo going on, um, the new moon and the retrograde of Mars can really be speaking to, just coming to realizations about, um, what you want to do with your work and how you want to invest in yourself, what kind of skills you are changing your mind on or deciding to develop that will help you actually gain some kind of stability work wise. Now, I say work because the sixth house is associated with work. 10th house is much more career and how you're publicly known. Sixth house is the daily grind. So that's kind of the lighter way of looking at the sixth house, and this new moon. But for some of you, it can be, a little bit more health focused, where the new moon is kind of, bringing to light some kind of cycle, some kind of habit, some kind of, underlying thing that you need to really address. And hopefully that Mars retrograde is really, I mean, Mars going through Cancer can bring up a ton of, especially if you have placements in Cancer, it can bring up a ton of different, issues that need to be developed and, not developed, sorry, addressed head on. So some things to think about for you guys. Um, it can be as simple as, hey, green onions are giving me heartburn, so I guess I can't eat green onions anymore. Like, it could be something as simple and as silly as that, or it can be much more deep and intense. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Andy, you're a fellow Cancerian Mars. Oh, histamine issues. Ah, damn it. Yeah, that's exactly it. That is really on point for the Mars energy, right? It's like histamine issues is essentially your immune system going fucking haywire, right? It's inflammation in your immune system. It's very Cancer Mars. So I'm sorry you're dealing with that. That really sucks. And I really hope that like Mars retrograding through the second house can be a really helpful time to do something like an elimination diet where literally you're doing Mars things, you're cutting out things that you're feeding yourself, second house. And I really hope that that in conjunction with the opposition with Pluto and all that stuff that it helps you get a little closer to the root of the issue. Yeah, so hopefully if you're like Andy, the other Gemini risings that are out there, um yeah, damn it, right? Like high histamine foods are like cured meats and some of my favorite cheeses and anything that's fermented or like yeah, I get it. Yeah, so if you're a Gemini rising and you're dealing with anything that similar to what Andy is going through, hopefully, hopefully the Mars retrograde period doesn't cause even worse inflammation for you. But if it does, I mean, sometimes the body's best defense is to get hot and burn things away. So maybe there's something in there for you to kind of consider and work with. A Six of Swords. Ooh, I love that. Okay, the Six of Swords speaks to balance. The Lord of Earned Success. So the Six of Swords, it's a very brainiac kind of energy where we are perfecting the formula for something. Um, I really love that because I really feel like for you guys in particular, Gemini, of course, air sign gets a really air card. This will be a really nice period for tweaking and perfecting whatever you've been doing to help treat yourself or whatever you've been doing to kind of assemble the team of practitioners around you to figure out and get to the root of the problem. Six of Swords is really nice. Um, the only thing I would say is like it's not a quick process. It is something that takes time to develop. You know, sometimes you'll have to run through the formula 10 or 20 times until you get it to perfection where it actually balances out perfectly. That's the 6 of swords in this deck anyway. That's what it speaks to me. Um, and then a little bit of context. The 6 of cups comes out. It's double 6 for you guys. So 6 of cups coming out. Keep doing whatever you do, even if you do it badly. No. I mean, you do you, okay, but no, 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 no. Um, the Six of Swords is about making changes, but making the right changes at the right time in the right amounts. Um, the Six of Cups coming out, well, Interestingly enough, this is another Scorpio card. So, no, you can't perfect without practice, you're right. Um, okay, so I actually feel like the 6 of Cups is almost like coming to terms with the nature of desire and the fact that it is a very human thing to want things. It's a part of it's a part of the human experience to go through these cycles of like desiring certain foods, especially since that seems to be the topic. Desiring certain foods and then realizing that they don't have a good effect on our body and then going through this cycle of like maybe I shouldn't do this as much and maybe I should cut back here and maybe I should eat more of this and like there's this is the 6 of Swords playing out really, but it's also us wrestling with the nature of desire. And the 6 of Cups coming out is like, okay, maybe there is something here about overindulging. Definitely. Um, but in the case of the 6 of Cups, it's like we kind of it's like you finally land on the right thing to overindulge in that actually doesn't hurt you. Like, that's kinda definitely don't eat swords. Or maybe you should eat some pho, actually. Yeah, it's like finding the right maybe it's a spicy food, maybe it's not, but it's like finding the right thing that doesn't tip the equation really badly one way or the other, that you can indulge in to your heart's desire that doesn't actually hurt you. I don't know if that thing exists. Maybe it does. I don't know. It could be a pipe dream. It kind of feels like a fantasy at this point, but some lettuce maybe. I don't know. Depends on the deck. Depends on the deck. Um, but yes, I appreciate that perspective because you could kind of look at it as where do the root of those desires come from? Like when we overindulge, I'll share a little bit. When we overindulge, say it's my example earlier of mini eggs, since it's Halloween night, let's go back to candy. Um, where does that desire actually come from? Where is it rooted in? And if it's rooted in a need that wasn't met as a child, for example, then what does that child actually need? And if we're comforting or self-medicating through the use of food or through the use of any other desire that is not helping us, then that's something that can be worked with. That's something that can be looked at. So I like that you brought that up, Mel, because it works really nicely. So perhaps for you, Gemini, this Mercury retrograde will be and actually I just realized I'm rocking myself a little bit. Um That's funny. I didn't mean to do that, but here we are. Um, Perhaps this Mars retrograde for you guys is actually quite a bit about um, reassessing your relationship with the things that you consume. And it can be food to go with this example, but the second house, it can be media, since Mars will be working with the third house as well. It can be um, all sorts of different things and resources. So, these are just some themes for you to think about. And ultimately, you're learning to rebalance the formula so that it actually works for you. And the 6 of Swords promises success, so I like it. Cancer. This was my first deck. It's a good deck. Cancer. For you guys, the new moon in Scorpio will be in your fifth house. The fifth house is related to, well, it's actually called the house of good fortune. So, lucky for you. So, the house of good fortune, this house is related to pleasure, creativity, and children and hedonism. Um, a nice thick dick. Oh, goodness. Here we go. So, the fifth house. I seem to be moving a lot of energy right now. I don't know what's going on with that. But anyway, new moon in the fifth house, quite simply, can just be, hey, I want to start a new creative project. Very simple, very stereotypical. Sure, on the surface, that could totally be it. But Mars is retrograding through your first house for the next forever. Um, that's what it's going to feel like anyway. And this first Mars Pluto opposition is happening in your first house as well. So reach out, hug a Cancer. They probably need it. Um, yeah. I hope you guys are okay out there. Reach out if you need support. This is kind of intense. So with the Mars retrograde going through your first house, but starting in your second house, it's quite likely that you will be experiencing some, either you or family members, honestly, people in your peripheral, quite likely are experiencing some really intense effects from the Mars transit. And now I don't want to say that as like Mars is causing these problems. It's just that Mars in Cancer is reflecting what's actually happening. It's like a mirror. Um, I I wanna be careful how I word things because it's not that the hands of the clock are causing the time, they're just reflecting the time, right? They are, telling us, they're telling us what time it is. They're not causing it to be 8 PM, right? But anyway, Mars going through Cancer is reflecting this time period for you guys where your life might be kind of like in a pressure cooker. The people that are directly related to you, they might be kind of like going through some pressure cooker type of events. There could be some really intense consequences to health with some of the people around you, or you yourself. Um, yeah, the Mars slowing down in your first house in Cancer is no joke. But here's the thing: you're gonna get through it. It'll be fine. Trust me, you will be okay. Perhaps the new moon can be a little bit helpful as a always do. Hell yeah, Stacy. Exactly. Perhaps this can be kind of a helpful outlet where maybe spending some time with children or literally engaging in a creative project. It's not going to fix whatever's happening. Definitely. I would never imply that, but it can certainly act as a distraction, even if it's just about like engaging in some mindful project, some mindfulness practice rather. Sometimes that's enough to just help you get through the day, right? It might not be super intense for all of you. I think it certainly depends on what kind of planets you have in the cardinal signs and where your ascendant degree falls if you're a Cancer rising. If that degree is in the last 15 degrees of the signs, the last half of Cancer, the Mars retrograde is going to impact you quite significantly. If you go back to the beginning of the video, I had a nice little graphic actually of where that Mars retrograde was going to occur, what degrees exactly. It's kind of nice. Um, I I really like the visual representative. I'm going to use it more often. But anyway, so just kind of pay attention to the themes that are coming up now as this new moon takes place and the first Mars Pluto opposition occurs. This is not gonna be over quickly, it is a long and drawn out story. Mars is going to oppose Pluto 2 more times after this week. So, kinda heads up. Sorry. It's, the Mars retrograde is always a, kind of a long process, not to be underestimated for sure. Okay, so anyway, let's pull some cards. I'm gonna pull some cards for Cancer, and then I'm going to read Stacy's chart, and then we're gonna keep going. Doo 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 doo. First card for Cancer, the Queen of Wands. Ooh, Queen of the Thrones of Flame. I really love that. Um, there is this alluring, vital, passionate, inspiring energy to the Queen of Wands. That's you, Cancer, right now. I like it. Um, it's like this is you walking through the flame. Okay. Yeah, sure. Cancer rising. Oh, so sensitive. Okay, yeah, sure, whatever. But you're taking that sensitivity, you're taking that emotional power, and right now you're riding through and showing up and being like Stacy. Yeah, I fucking got it. I know I do, Kaylee. You don't have to tell me. I love that. I love it. That's so good. There's this like this spiritual power to the Queen of Wands. And I really feel like it comes from this confidence. Mars in the first house, Mars transiting through the first house can certainly lend some of that strength, and I think it's beautiful. One cool thing that I've learned about so-called fallen planets, Mars and Cancer, is that there's nowhere to go but up. So you might start out with some not so wonderful effects, but there's nowhere to go but up from there. And I feel like this is you mastering that energy and being like, "Yeah, actually, I got this." Let's get some context. Oh, there it is. Oh, Ace of Pentacles. I'm surprised. I wasn't expecting that. Interesting. I think for you guys, this implies that, well, actually, I was just saying there's nowhere to go but up. And there it is. There's something in here about with the Ace of Pentacles in particular about gaining some kind of boon or gift. And it doesn't necessarily have to be monetary, although Mars is stationing retrograde in your second house, which does speak to finances, but let's not worry about that right now. I think that this is a little bit more general than that. Um, Having this boost of confidence, and even if it's just knowing that you can make it through, seeing yourself through whatever battles come your way, and just knowing that you can walk through that fire. That in and of itself is such an alluring, um, magnetic energy that you can't help but attract different opportunities to you. The Ace of Pentacles is one such opportunity, so that's really cool. Um, and like I said, this new moon is happening in the 5th house for you, which is the house of good fortune. So you never know, like, there could be something really sudden and unexpected that kinda shows up out of nowhere. Now the only thing that I would say is that no, never mind, I take that back. Accept whatever gift comes your way, especially while you're in this mode of, like, confidence, because while we're going through this long and drawn out Mars retrograde process, you're probably going to be challenged several times during that time frame, which isn't a bad thing. I really feel like these challenges and checks are actually really necessary for you to continue to step into that confidence and step into that power. Ooh, I like it. Wow, Cancer, powerful reading. Holy. It's like, would it even really be true self-empowerment if you were not challenged ever? How do you how do you respond to confrontation? Um, do you go straight into fight or flight, or do you go into freeze automatically? Can you stand up? Can you defend yourself and defend your energetic, psychic, physical boundaries? Um, some questions for you to contemplate, Cancer. I kind of feel like the Mars Pluto opposition across your first 7th house is really also bringing this energy to the forefront of like needing to actually address something that has been weighing on you for quite some time. And it is time to address that thing. And it is time to really break free and break the pattern. What's up, Eve? Good to see you here. Yeah, good morning in Germany, I guess, eh? Yeah, that's powerful. Cancer. That's really powerful. I also feel like there's a fierce independence here, like, you really don't need to rely, so heavily on another if that other is a toxic influence. So, just some things for you to contemplate. Okay. I'm gonna pause the live readings for a second to read Stacy's chart. So Stacy is a Capricorn rising with a stellium in Cancer. And actually, I I remember seeing this last time I looked at your chart, Stacy, but I forgot. We have the same Jupiter, so that's super cool. That's fun. Um, oh, Mars right on your midheaven. Girl, no wonder you're so fiery. Oh, I love that. Okay. Okay. So, yeah, the Mars retrograde is going to go right over a whole bunch of personal planets. So, it'll be stationing at 6 Leo, which is 2 degrees away from your Jupiter, and then going back and stationing direct right on the same degree as your Mercury, after passing over your moon. So this is a pretty critical time period, this Mars retrograde for you. Um, I think that there is actually a bunch that I want to talk to you about in private, but for the sake of the public side of this, what I would say generally speaking, is that Your role as a caretaker with Moon in Cancer, your role as a mom with Moon in Cancer, your role as generally as the one that provides and nurtures in relationships is definitely coming to the forefront as a really major theme when other people are going through really difficult times. So the seventh house is your partners, right? You are the first house. You are the first house lord. This is other people. So when other people are going through really crazy shit or really intense things, or they're going through really intense illnesses, you are the one to take care of them, and hold them up and be the strong one and all of these things. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. In fact, it's a really noble and beautiful quality, and it's one of the things that makes you you, and I love it. Stacy is the mom of the group. She's the mom. But at the same time, if that causes you uh your own issues, like maybe this is a pattern that is coming up to be healed. I'm really, really curious about how the retrograde is going to affect the Jupiter in the eighth. Um, and I definitely want to talk to you about that as it gets a little bit closer, just mostly because I have the same Jupiter and I'm like, how's it gonna play out? But Jupiter in the eighth is like super benefic planet in a really difficult house, can play out in a lot of different ways, but I feel like for a Capricorn rising in particular, because Jupiter rules the 12th and it rules the third, it rules these like kind of weird, wonky houses that are nebulous and not so easy to define, and it's in a really difficult house. Um, I have personally had a difficult time kind of grasping it, partially because it's my own fucking chart, but I feel like, honestly, it can bring, like, lucky breaks because of other people. It's like other people are this is the 8th house, right? Other people are willing to help you. Other people are willing to lend a hand and offer things and give you things and help you out and do all of these really beautiful things for you. So I'm really curious how that Mars stationing retrograde right on top of the Jupiter is gonna play out. It's kinda like actually, I almost feel like it'll be time for you to call in that favor, right? It's like, "Alright, I've it's you actually owe me now. This is you. You telling somebody else, "You owe me now." Which will be interesting. It's like, "Alright, you're really calling in that favor that somebody promised that they would give you." Um, that could be one way that it shows up, but, yeah, that's just a couple of things for you to kinda chew on. And then as Mars goes back retrograde, dook, 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 into your 7th house, right on top of all of your personal planets here, the reason you're calling in those favors is to help you out and to help your family out and to help get out of, some sticky situations. So, just a couple of a couple of main themes to kinda watch out for over the next couple of months. And, like, really, I love the Cancer reading, and I'm actually really glad that you suggested waiting until we had read Cancer and then pulled up your chart because bam, there's that Queen of Wands. So confident, so beautiful, so sexy. Stacy is the mom that's got it going on. Hell yeah. Have you met Stacy? She's the shit. So like it's awesome. And it's awesome to see. And there's you, Queen of Wands, by the way. So and also interesting, you're heading into your Saturn return. I almost didn't mention that. That's worth its own reading all on its own, just talking about Saturn. But yeah, with the new moon in particular, this new moon for you, taking ta taking into consideration all of the Mars stuff that's going on, I feel like this can be, a really interesting period with the new place that you're at. with the new job that you've taken on, making some new connections with, people that are gonna help you gain more, um prestige is the word that I want to use, but it's not quite the right word. But it is associated with the 10th house, so we're gonna stay with that. But yeah, making new connections, new moon, definitely go out, um, this weekend and try to meet some people and, just see how that unfolds for you. Yeah. Wait, which part makes more sense? Oh, yeah, girl, go in public. The 11th house is a public house, man. This is your network. All of these houses are public houses, except for the 8th. It's kinda private, except for debt to the government, that's not very private. But anyway, yeah, the 11th house is, so the 11th house, basically speaking, and we'll talk about it when we get to Capricorn, but the 11th house is the people that you meet, the networks and, associations that you make that help you gain something. It can be rewards, it can be, like scholarships and stuff like that, seen from the 11th house, boons, gifts, that kind of stuff. But in particular, when it comes to people, it's the organizations that you become involved in. So, like, I mean, there's a bunch of different ways that you can look at that. For Capricorn with Scorpio on the 11th, it's like your coven, okay, which is not very public, mind you, but we are talking about Scorpio. Um, yeah, yeah, go. You mean go in public? Yeah, go in public. Jeez, that's funny. Oh, yeah. No, it worked perfect. Oh, thanks, PK. Okay, next. Yeah, Stacy. Um, yeah, there's a bunch that I want to talk about in regards to some of the stuff that you've been going through recently. And I think the timing of Mars moving through the 7th house and touching all of those personal planets is not accidental. So that definitely ties into it. And I'm gonna have to go get my water. Woo. But before that, Leo. Leo. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, Leo. So, for you guys, the 4th house is what's being activated with this new moon. The 4th house is known as the subterranean. Ooh. One of my teachers, Gemini Brett, calls it the root. It's your anchor. It relates to our ancestry. It relates to our property, our home, our closest family members. Um, it is absolutely associated with our mother and our father. I've actually learned fairly recently. So all of the family stuff is stored in the 4th house. The family secrets are stored in the 4th house. It's your private life. Um, yeah, so big themes in the 4th house. As as a Leo rising, Mars will be stationing retrograde in your 1st house. Will retrograde back through your 12th house. And then as Mars comes back into Leo, it will oppose Pluto for a 3rd time. So, yeah, bunch of stuff going on. Whole bunch of stuff going on. I'm really interested how we have this, like, 4th house new moon and then this huge 12th house retrograde. It's like There's a new cycle beginning in your 4th house with your family. Perhaps for some of you, like chance, you have an addition to the family coming in. There's some totally new energy being brought into the 4th house, into your property, into your home. Maybe there's some kind of expansion going on, blah blah blah, all that stuff. And at the same time, there's like this really there's kind of an intense process going on in your subconscious, which is the 12th house, and also with your identity, which is your first house, with your personality, with um even your vitality. Like for some of you, this can be just being active at nighttime because your dreams are active, or because you feel like there's this really protective energy coming up that needs to be expressed at night. Like instead of sleeping, you're busy uh doing a bunch of things when you should be asleep. That's like I'm picturing, okay, full disclosure, I'm picturing Chance getting up and then taking care of a baby. Like it could be something as, really simple and beautiful as that, as like, "Mama's up, I'm up. I'm protecting mama, I'm protecting baby, I'm feeding baby, I'm a dad now." Like that that kinda stuff. Um, so for some of you, really beautiful, love that. For others, it can be a little bit more serious where, the intensity at night, or the intensity in the subterranean, and the intensity in the subconscious is coming out in less than fun ways. For some of you, this can be a great unearthing of skeletons in the closet. That is a 4th house theme, um, especially as it relates to things that you do that cause your own undoing. That's a 12th house theme. So, family karma, family ties, things that you inherited in your ancestry, your direct ancestry or your spiritual ancestry, whichever way you want to look at it, both are accurate. Um, and how that ties into what you do that causes you to self-sabotage. These things are major, major themes that are coming up, especially as that Mars is opposing Pluto 3 times during the retrograde cycle. So there is this like confrontational energy where you're going to be confronted with these powerful oppositions where it's like you might feel like you are in the right, maybe you are, maybe you're not. Um but there's Pluto staring you down, and you have to confront some kind of dark, powerful force. For some of you, it's quite literally just like I said with Chance. My lady just had a baby, and she is a portal to the other side and just brought in another soul and to this earthly realm. Now I have to take care of them both, and that's really intense. That's really intense. And Pluto, by the way, is absolutely associated with pregnancy and birth. For some of you, it's not so fun. It's not so light. It's quite literally. Let me just put it this way. Not everybody's Chance, but Trump also has this same rising sign. Just putting that out there. And it is election week. So, yeah, wild stuff. Okay. Let's pull some cards. It's really warm in here, by the way. All right, Leo. What do we got for cards for you? Ooh, the moon, the ruler of flux and reflux. A long ass Mars retrograde through the 12th house to me speaks of your fears and confronting some of those fears and coming face to face with them, maybe in your dreams, even maybe in meditation, maybe in some form of isolation. The moon is so often associated with fears and with the subterranean and the subconscious stuff. And I really feel like with this new moon in the fourth house and all of this Mars stuff, this is an ideal time and an ideal time of year, especially for it to just come up, to be looked at, to be sat with. I really don't feel like this is an energy of something that needs to be fixed or cured or healed. I really feel like this time it's not about, I don't even think it's even about necessarily sitting it with for the purpose of transmuting. Really feel like it's more like sitting with it for the purpose of acknowledging that it fucking exists in the first place. Um, I think there is a tendency, especially in spiritual circles. Sorry, guys. I'm gonna my Capricorn's showing, but I think there's this tendency to want to transmute everything for the light and send everything back to the light and heal everything and it's butterflies and rainbows and shit like that, but that's not life all of the time. There's light and dark, and I feel like the moon card coming out and this these transits is really just highlighting the yin nature of it all. Leo, you are a very yang sign. You're very masculine. You're very go and get it. Shine, be the centerpiece. Um, but there is this really intense yin energy presenting itself, and it's not something to just brush aside or ignore or try to even illuminate. It's just about sitting with it and letting it be. I think that's what this new moon is about for you. I don't think any other cards are going to come out. Just the moon. You just got to sit with it. There's no fixing it. There's no like how do you cure a crying baby that isn't hungry and has a dry diaper and doesn't need anything? Just needs to be held sometimes. Maybe that's not even doing it. Maybe it's just, and maybe the baby's not a real baby. Maybe the baby's you and like I'm getting a little heady, but fuck it, it's Halloween. I mean, yeah. No more cards are coming out. That's it. That's that's it. That's all. It's not about fixing or pushing through anything. It's about sitting with it and allowing it to be. Sitting with that moon energy, that fear, that darkness, that subterranean, that Plutonian energy, and just letting it be. Yeah, there's Hades. Acknowledge Hades and just acknowledge it. That's it. That's all I got for you. I'm sorry, Leo. You came to my channel. I don't know what to tell you. Okay. Happy Halloween. Um, Virgo. Uh, good stuff. Oh man. Virgo. For you guys, the new moon tomorrow is happening in the third house, which is called the house of the goddess, as this is the house where the moon rejoices. In the 3rd house, this is where we see our local environment. This is where we see our local customs. This is a spot that talks about education and writing and short journeys. With a new moon here, really it can just be as simple as buckling down in some studies, right? It doesn't have to be anything really intense. Um, you could be experiencing some interesting stuff in your local neighborhood tonight, you know what I mean? Um, and actually, you know what? If you do go out tonight or this weekend even, just kinda take a look around you and look for themes of Mars. You never know what kind of archetypes will present themselves to you just while you're out and about. That's always a fun game to play. Spot the transit. I like to I don't actually call it that, but, that's what you could do is play spot the transit. Um, the Mars retrograde the Mars retrograde and opposition with Pluto will be taking place primarily in your 11th house, as Mars will spend the most time in Cancer. But, first, this Mars-Pluto first initial opposition will be along this axis, along the 5th and 11th axis, which will do I mean, primarily, it's going to speak to your friends, your networks. There might be some interesting confrontation that comes up between, like, different people in your network, you know what I mean? Um, you might actually be watching some confrontation play out within, your social groups, which will be really interesting to see. um, how they confront that Plutonian energy or not. And then as Pluto leaves Capricorn and enters your 6th house, and we have the final 2 oppositions in that in that axis, in the 12th and 6th axis. It's interesting because it's like we're moving from some fun houses, and I mean, at the same time, good riddance. I'm so happy Pluto is leaving Capricorn, thank God, finally. But, we're starting this we're starting off this 20-year period of Pluto in your 6th house, um, with this really interesting dynamic of this Mars opposition. So it's like we're trying to clear the way for this new air phase to begin, if that makes sense. The 12th and the 6th house have to do with our health. The 6th with more physical stuff, the 12th with more, mental and spiritual stuff. I really feel like it's a little bit more subtle unless you have some planets, like some personal planets in the 12th house or in the 6th house, you might not even notice the Mars-Pluto opposition very much except for, like, in your peripheral, in your social settings. Um, unless you're also dealing with some health things at this time, like some sticky health stuff. For some of you, actually, for some of the Virgos out there, um, this will be a really powerful time period for addressing certain addictive patterns and behaviors. Um, with Mars stationing retrograde in the 12th, it's kind of like, all right, it's time to put a stop to these behaviors that I'm doing that are causing my undoing. That's the 12th house. And then as it's going back into the 11th house, really taking a hard look at the people that you associate with and whether they're helping you or hindering you on that mission. The 11th house is supposed to be the network connections that you have that help you attain a higher position, that help you get higher and um, move up, so to speak. But if they're not, if they're dragging you down, then it's time to do the Mars thing and cut, 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 cut. All right. Got too warm. I needed to put my hair up. Let's pull some cards. Now, with that in mind, with that in mind, the new moon could be a really nice opportunity to kind of maybe just get down on paper the changes that you'd like to see. Sometimes it can be helpful to work with a difficult energy. So with Mars, you want to bring that Martian energy in somehow. And actually, honestly, you know those calligraphy pens, the old ones that you would dip in ink and then write, and the metal itself would like split a little bit depending on how hard you pressed. I really feel like those are super Martian pens, and I want one now. Or embossing things into leather. You're literally using a knife to create patterns in leather. Sorry, someone just slammed a door. Rude. Okay, so anyway, sidetracked. What cards do we have for you? Jenny just sent me a video of this pen that uh it l- honestly it looks like it's functioning like a tattoo gun. It's like tick, 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 tick. It's like using like needles or a kind of a head to stab the leather. It's so Martian. I fucking love it. Okay. I would love some cards for Virgo. That'd be great. I'll just I'll just pull some. I don't have to do it like this. Deck's getting cheeky. Oh, there it is. Interesting. And when it does pull a card, look at the one it does. The Eight of Swords. Virgo, I feel like you have been really struggling to speak up and speak your mind lately. Maybe it's for fear of judgment, or maybe, there's a billion different reasons why, but um when it comes down to it, the only way that you can get support is if you speak up and say something. So let me pull up the chart. Just want to look back at the chart for a second. Perhaps this new moon in the third house is really speaking to making a commitment to yourself to express yourself honestly more often. A third house new moon says to me, all right, self, let's speak up more. Not everybody's going to like what you have to say. You have Scorpio in the third house. Mm, you're going to speak the truth. And if that truth is about um darker topics, so be it. That's you. Embrace it. Here's the thing about the 8 of Swords that I like to bring up as well. So, in this deck in particular, it's Jupiter and Gemini. When you are learning how to do something, or yeah, when you're learning how to do something, oftentimes you will overshoot that thing, and the pendulum will swing really wild one way, and then you'll need to bring it back. But here's the thing, it'll swing in the other way. It'll swing the other way. And you'll experience these extremes for a little bit as you're trying to balance it out. Eventually, you will come into the middle, but it doesn't happen all at once, and it doesn't happen right away. You kind of, especially with this Mars retrograde and with all of the mental stuff that's likely going to be happening, it's much more likely that you're going to be saying a bunch of stuff that you don't necessarily mean, or that comes off really harsh, and then backing it up and maybe not going back on what you said, but needing to apologize, foot and mouth kind of thing, and the pendulum is just gonna keep going for a little bit, but that's okay. That's part of the learning process, and that's part of the Eight of Swords energy. It's like you need to just break those bonds because 'cause they're really not that tight. They're self-imposed anyway, and, start speaking up. Yeah, that's all that's coming out. Okay, that's fine. Libra. So for Libra, Scorpio new moon is happening in the second house. This is the other gate of Hades. Ooh, spooky. The second house is also known as an idle place. And again, simply put, an idle place just means that it is slow to develop. Thus, the second house is tied to our cultivated resources. It is associated with our skills and abilities, our acquisitions. With the second house, new moon in the second house really quite simply can be just, all right, um, I want to develop a new skill or learn a new skill. And whatever that skill is, it can be literally anything. Um, it will eventually be something that can help you gain different kinds of resources. Now, really, I want to focus on that Mars retrograde. So, Mars will be stationing retrograde in your 11th and then moving back into the 10th house. Now, as a cardinal sign rising, if your ascendant degree or if you have any personal planets within the first 20 degrees of the cardinal signs, so if your ascendant is 0 to anywhere 0 to 20, the Mars retrograde is going to be very impactful for you. But even without it, even if you're a late sign Libra, it's still going to be quite impactful because it's going through your 10th house. Now, the 10th house is most commonly associated with our career and with our prestige and something that we become known for. Of course, not everybody is going to be known for their career, but it's just that's just one manifestation. So with Mars going retrograde through the 10th house, and spending quite a significant amount of time there, um, there's quite likely going to be a I mean, this is a long drawn out story, all right? Right after the new moon, Mars makes its first opposition with Pluto, moves into the 11th, stations retrograde, makes another opposition with Pluto, this time in Leo, moves back into Cancer, stays in Cancer for fucking forever, stations direct, moves back out of Cancer, opposes Pluto again for a third time, and then we're through with that story. So if you end up going through some major shifts in your career during this time, would not be shocked in the slightest. If you ended up having some kind of confrontation break out between yourself and an authority figure or yourself and a family member or you watch some crazy stuff go down at work, also wouldn't be shocked in the slightest. Um, considering the tie-in with the 11th house as Mars is stationing retrograde in the 11th, this could very well be that you're kind of realizing that maybe perhaps some of the people that you've been associating with, that you've wanted to network with, and that have been helping you out in the past, perhaps there is some darker patterns playing out there that kind of are coming out now. They're coming to the light. It's like, all right, there's some kind of power and control thing happening here, and I don't like it. It's time to speak up. All right, Libra, time to speak up. So So what do we have for Libra for cards? Libra, Libra, Libra. What do we have for you? Shy. There it is. Oh, nice. Libra, you are about to be going through some interesting things where you're going to need to make some very important decisions. Do you stay or do you go? Judgment. Dun dun dun. The last judgment comes out, the spirit of primal fire. You're going to feel like your feet are being held to the fire, so to speak, as things are shifting around you. Again, cardinal rising sign, very big shifts in the cardinal houses. As things are shifting around you, and there's this really intense kind of opposition energy, you might even feel like you're being kind of pulled in a certain direction, but you're actually being called. If you choose to answer this call, you must get up and act on it. Um, at the end of this process, when it's all said and done, like April next year, April of next year. April's the last opposition date between Mars and Pluto. After it's all said and done, you're gonna feel like a totally different person. Um, especially if you choose to answer whatever you're being called to answer right now. It's time to make some big changes. It's time to jump. Um, if you've been kind of like sitting on your hands waiting for things to happen around you, no, 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 no. You're a cardinal sign, baby. You have to make those changes. Any other context? For my Libras out there that don't want to rock the boat, for my Libras out there that stay silent or make themselves smaller or hold themselves back because they want to maintain harmony, you're not actually maintaining harmony, you're making it worse. And ultimately, I can tell you from experience and from witnessing my Libra sister do exactly this, it will come out in passive aggressiveness. So when that Mars Pluto opposition perfects 3 times, um, that passive aggressiveness is going to come out as actual aggression, as direct aggression. How you choose to direct it now, really, really key. Um, with this new moon happening in your second house, I actually feel like now that we've seen the cards, this is actually really speaking to your own values first and foremost. And exactly what Stacey said. Anytime we stay silent, we hurt ourselves. 100%. So yeah, you might not be rocking the boat. You might be keeping the peace, but you're actually not. You're causing more conflict internally than anything else. So when these really intense transits take place and that Mars goes through your 10th house, you're going to be confronted and you're going to need to not stay silent. You have to speak up. Do not. Please. I beg of you. Um, do not put on the blindfold and tie your own hands behind your back. Don't fucking do it. Um, Even if it's awkward, even if it's uncomfortable, actually fuck that, especially if it's uncomfortable, you need to speak up, you need to say something, you need to confront whatever is coming, to ahead in front of you. And especially with Pluto in the 4th house like that, if there's stuff going on at home that you've not wanted to confront for fear of repercussions or consequences or blah 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 blah, you need to confront it. This is the last Pluto Mars aspect forever while Pluto's in Capricorn. Make use of it. This is something culminating at the anaretic degree. It's really intense. And it's intense for a reason. We're meant to like finish that chapter so we can move on with our fucking lives. How do you move on if you stay silent and you don't speak up? Okay, rant over. I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. Don't apologize. I take that back. Mm, Virgo. I was just yelling at my little sister. I'm sorry. Scorpio. I love my sister, but goddamn. Scorpio. The new moon is happening in your first house, in your rising sign, so to speak. This is the helm of the ship. This house represents yourself, your body, your personality, your identity, your purpose, your role in society. To me, the first house talks about an archetype that you are learning to embody in this particular lifetime. And you, my friends, are ruled by Mars. Yeah, you could say Pluto if you really want to, but traditionally Mars. Now, depending on where your ascendant degree is, or if you're watching for your sun signs, where your sun is, um, the Mars retrograde itself and the Mars Pluto oppositions could potentially be extremely impactful for you. So if you have anything in Scorpio in the first um, 10 degrees, this will be much more impactful. As Mars will station at 6 degrees of Leo, go back, blah blah blah, make its way through Cancer, all that fun stuff, and then come back out into Leo and make a third and final opposition with Pluto from Leo. So this will actually be quite impactful for you guys as well because this is going to span from your third and ninth house into your 10th and fourth house as we go through the Mars saga. So, a new moon in your first house, we can most closely relate this to the idea of just starting a new chapter for yourself. And like really as the sun is moving through your first house, typically I find that people feel more vital. They have more energy to just be themselves and express themselves, and that's really beautiful. Um, the new moon in your first house, this is just time where um I feel like it's a good time to become reacquainted with what you actually want for your life. The first house is it's all about you, baby. This is all about you. Now, as Mars turns retrograde in your 10th, goes back into the ninth, does its thing, it comes back into the 10th. Primarily, the majority of this time that Mars is retrograde and going through this whole cycle will actually be in your ninth house, which is the house of religion and spirituality and your beliefs. The main Pluto Mars, well, sorry, the first Pluto Mars opposition will be right in that ninth third axis. So perhaps there's some theme here for you of your belief structure specifically. What kind of divination practices or spiritual practices or religious practices do you have that are, just coming up for a little bit of a review? That's kinda the Mars retrograde energy. But specifically, how does that tie into the 10th house? Which is a good question, isn't it? What kind of stuff is coming up for you in your career right now? Because Pluto is about to enter your fourth house of home and family and your ancestry. As Mars is making those first oppositions um, to Pluto as we enter this 20-year period of Pluto in your fourth house, um, your role in society and your role in your home is about to go through some pretty big changes. Now, Pluto is a very slow moving planet. It's going to be in Aquarius for 20 years. It's not going to be an overnight change, but we're kicking it off with the Mars retrograde opposing Pluto. It's going to be, I feel like the themes are going to be really loud. The archetypes are going to be really in your face. And then that's just the themes that you will be experiencing for the next 20 years. Yay. um, what else do I got to say about this? I don't know. I feel like once we pull cards, it'll flesh itself out a little bit. So let's do that. What do we got for you, Scorpio? Oh, interesting. So the initial card that came out for you, Scorpio, is actually the card that's associated with the first decan of Scorpio, where this new moon is taking place, which is the Five of Cups. One of your own cards. This card relates to a loss in pleasure. So there is this sense of grief and loss and having to let go of something that actually was not very good for us in the first place. Um, oh man, there's so many ways you can take that, but just kind of contemplate that for a little bit because it's almost like when this card comes out, we need to ask ourselves where we've been perhaps not honest with ourselves about what we're doing and what we need to let go of and what's actually toxic. In one of my decks actually, in my golden art deck, it's kind of cool. So there's the 5 cups, right? There's always a few that are spilled. Except for in this deck, of course. None of them were spilled. But anyway, but they're all empty. Um but in that other deck, the ones that are spilled, the liquid that's coming out of them is actually brown. So it's like there's something the thing that you're letting go of, there's a totally necessary process of grief associated with it, even if it was not good for you. So with the Mars retrograde touching on your 10th and with Pluto moving into your 4th and all of that um angular house stuff happening, it's kind of like who you are, who you've identified yourself to be in the past, first house, and like what you've been holding on to as far as your career goes, those things are going through some pretty big changes. Um, Especially if you happen to be somebody that really identifies really strongly with what you do for a job. Like one of the first things that comes up in small talk is like, "Hey, blah blah blah, what do you do for a living?" If you're one of those people that like is really tied to that, but all of a sudden you have to make some really big career changes, t- yeah, that could be there's a huge uh process of grief that goes along with that as you have to make some really big changes, but it is what it is. It is what it is, Scorpio. I think at the end of the day, the message is that you aren't what you do. You aren't what you own. And technically speaking, the entirety of you is not even your body or your birth chart or your clothes or your status or any of these things. You're actually so much more than that. You are a spirit that happens to be embodied in a physical vessel right now, but you're actually so much more than that. So like go through this process of grief. Um that's obviously necessary. It's the only card that's coming out. But yeah, I kind of feel like what you're letting go of is it was meant to be let go of, and that's okay. That's an okay thing. Yeah, that's the only card that's coming out, so sorry, Scorpio. Yay for you. Okay, I need to stretch a little bit and I need some water and then I'm gonna finish the last three. Okay, give me 1 second, guys. I just have to get some water and Five of Cups. You're parched. Go get water. I'll be I'll be r Sorry, sorry, sorry. Thank you for hanging out. Okay, I've stretched. I've got water. We could do this. So, before I do these last three signs, if you want to have your personal cards read, you want me to do a Halloween poll for you, mm, hit me up. If you'd like me to look at some transits, hit me up. Um, Instructions in the description. By the way, if you have not subscribed, I am trying to get to 1,000. I think we can do that. Hit subscribe, share the channel out. I would really appreciate it. Yeah, this is fun. It's been a while since I've done a good long stream, so I forgot. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Ooh, okay. So all right, we're on Sagittarius. I really miss being in a house, but honestly, one nice thing about being in an apartment is that there's actually no kids in this apartment, and I haven't been interrupted once to hand out candy. But then at the same time, that's sad because I wanna see everybody's costumes. First world problems, you know what I mean? Okay. I love Sag, okay. Oh, Sag. How's life, Sag? We gotta check in with our Saggies. Saturn's been hanging out in their 4th house forever. They just wanna go adventure, and Saturn's like, "It's no, you have to stay home." Ooh. Oh, man, I'm starting to get loopy. Alright. Mm, mm, mm. Aha! Good, good, good. We're on the right one. Okay, Sagittarius. Don't freak out, alright? Hellenistic ancient name for the 12th house is the house of bad spirit. Ooh, scary. So, new moon in the 12th house. By the way, if you are a Sag, especially a Sag sun or Sag rising, and you have been feeling like you're a little bit more tired than normal, you want to sleep, you feel like you're in isolation, that's a pretty normal experience for having the sun move through your 12th house. Um, there's much more emphasis on the subconscious and the dream realm and just isolation in general while the sun's in the 12th. So hang in there, you got this. So new moon in the 12th house. Well, this is the house of loss and isolation. Um, the 12th house can be described as the labor prior to birth, which is kind of cool. It's a neat way of looking at it. It's associated with your mental health. It is also associated with the things that you do that cause your own undoing and healing. It is both. It is both. What's kind of cool about the 12th house is I have seen people that have 12th house placements that end up, like, depending on the kind of placement, end up working in hospitals or working in the field of mental health or in social services, or they end up marrying somebody that does those things. So it's kinda cool. It's like it can describe both you experiencing all of the not so nice aspects of the 12th, or it can describe, like, just being in the field related to those things. So, kinda neat. But anyway, new moon in the 12th house, it can mean so many different things for you. It really is going to depend on the context of your life right now, what you got going on, Sag? What you got going on? For some of you, it can be describing, well, I mean, we are talking about the first decan of Scorpio and the relationship to desire. It can be about, well, what's your relationship to the things that are ultimately addictive in nature that cause you great harm at the end of the day. That has definitely been a theme that's come up a couple of times, and I don't think that that is um, any less valid here, especially with the 12th house new moon. Now, how does that tie into Mars? Well, we have a really long Mars retrograde coming up. We have a really intense kind of Mars Pluto saga right after this new moon. It's in the air right now, this Mars Pluto energy. Um, it'll be perfecting in the next couple of days, but it's pretty much like now. So pay attention because it's active. Mars will be first opposing Pluto from your 8th house, move into the ninth, stop station retrograde, oppose Pluto again, but from Leo, and then move back into Cancer, go back to the 17th degree of Cancer, stop station direct, move back out of Cancer, oppose Pluto again once it moves into Leo, and then carry on its way. This is a long ass process that we're in for. Buckle up, buttercup. So, what do the ninth and the 8th house represent? Because those are really the main active ones with Mars. So, ninth house, where Mars will be stationing, has to do with our spirituality, has to do with religion, it has to do with divination, with our publications, the works that we want to put out. I'm really curious actually how this is going to play out for those of you that are really interested in divination and for those of you that are not. Because I do know a few Sag risings that aren't interested in religion or spirituality at all, which is super fascinating. Um, so for those guys and gals, I wonder if it has to do more with the higher education aspect of the ninth house and maybe like rethinking. how you view or want to use that education or spirituality or religion. So I'm curious because I'm going to watch it play out in a couple of different people's lives that aren't interested in tarot and aren't interested in astrology. And I feel like sometimes our sample size is too small when we're just talking to people that are interested in those things. So yeah, just mentally taking notes as I'm talking here. So it'll be curious to see. I would actually really I love reading for skeptics because it's fun. But anyway, as Mars retrogrades through the 8th house, major themes that are going to come up will include debts that you owe and debts that are owed to you, and how you can begin to repay those or vice versa. If there are any weird power dynamics between you and others relating to something like money or shared resources of any kind, as Pluto is finishing out its stay in your second house, it's definitely going to come up. Like, definitely going to come up. If you feel like you are being manipulated in any way or controlled in any way through something like resources, it's definitely going to come up. And actually, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if you get this like the sudden urge or the sudden need to just pay off all debts so nothing is being held over top of you. And honestly I wouldn't blame you for that. So what do we got for you, Sag? You're the best, Stacy. Thank you. My number one fan. Oh, that's a lot of cards. You know what? Fair enough. I've been complaining about the deck being too quiet, and then like Sag is like, here's everything. It's a lot though. 100%. Yeah, 100%. Okay, so bunch of cards came out, Sagittarius, but only one card flipped over. So that's the one I'm gonna take. We got the Sun. The Sun. The Sun speaks to me of freedom, of expression, of vitality. The title of this card is The Lord of the Fire of the World. Um, Under the light from the sun, things grow, things bloom. Um, it's warm and woo, that was an interesting color change. Fun. Okay, very green for a second there. Um, yeah, there's vitality and youth associated with the sun. It's yeah, the big word that keeps popping up in my mind is freedom and like joy. So that's really beautiful. I love that for you, Sag. I feel like I mean, I feel like everybody needs a little bit of that in their life, but um I wasn't expecting that for you. I wasn't expecting that at all. So let's get a little bit of context. Um yeah, like I feel that that big theme of freedom and sovereignty is going to come up big time. and that, if there are any ties that feel really heavy or any obligations that you just can't stand or can't bear to have anymore, the Mars retrograde is gonna be a really fantastic time to really go through those with a fine-tooth comb and complete them and, tie them up and finish them and cut them out. The second card that I got for you, Sagittarius, is the Ace of Cups. Fucking beautiful. You got the Sun, you have the Ace of Cups. Mm, 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 mm. That's really nice new moon energy. I like it. I think that speaks more to the positive, um, potentiality here of being able to finally take care, well, maybe not finally, sorry, I shouldn't say it like that. Just being able to take care of yourself and being able to, emotionally provide for yourself and ask for your needs to be met and actually have them be met, and I think that that's a really beautiful thing. I know, like, it depending on what kind of background you come from, the context of your own life, um, that might be a totally novel and new thing for you, where somebody else is helping you meet your needs, and maybe that's really difficult. Like, it can be hard to ask for help for some people. Maybe, that's a totally new thing for you, especially if it's coming with, like, no strings, which is a really weird thing for some people. But, yeah, disregard that if it doesn't make sense to you. It does to me, but I'm getting a little bit loopy because 'cause we're getting late here, but, um, for a lot of the Sagittariuses out there, there is this sense of relief and like pressure being lifted up and freedom and sovereignty and love flowing, and there's like this sense of gratitude and beauty, and I think that's fucking beautiful. So I can't I there's nothing bad that you can say about that. How it ties back into the astrology, well, um that's a different story. That's a different story. But let's just take a look at the chart again real quick. Yeah, how it ties back into the astrology is like the sun is helping you to illuminate the things that aren't helpful for you. If you're able to ask for help, this will be a fantastic time to really help root out some of those negative patterns and get rid of them. Um, there are allies and people that are willing to help you in that mission. And Mars is on a mission, right? Mars going through the eighth house is on a mission. This is not the time to be afraid of the dark, my friends. This is the time to go in with a big bright light, the sun card, and take a good hard look, a nice good hard look at what ties are keeping you stuck and what ties are helping you. Right, that's the 8th house, the karmic ties. Ideally, ideally, and like it looks like, at least from the cards perspective, you're identifying the ties that are helpful and really leaning into them, and it looks like you're accepting the help. Um, so that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Takes two to tango, my friends. Capricorn. Capricorn. I'm not gonna lie. While I was creating the Capricorn slide, I had I had to stop and look up the 11th house. Not because I don't know what it means, but because I've just felt like this Pluto energy is so heavy and the Mars and Cancer stuff is so intense that I was just stuck looking at the 11th house. I'm like, "Boo, everything sucks." And then like, but wait, new moon in the 11th, fuck, what does that even mean? Well, the 11th is a house of good spirit. It's the house of your allies and your friends. It's these social connections and organizations that lift you up. It's associated with gifts and gains and boons and prizes and certifications, stuff like that, that really helps you gain status or just helps you gain in some way. And like that word status, you take it how you want to take it. Take it how you want to take it. So it was kinda surprising to me, and I found it kind of amusing, just in the process of making the slide itself that I was like, "I'm stuck, what does that mean?" Yeah. So, this Mars retrograde and the Mars-Pluto opposition, it's it's pretty intense, alright? Good riddance, fuck off Pluto, that's all I gotta say. I'm done. But no, really. First opposition occurs across the 1st and 7th house. If there are really intense, power dynamics playing out in your relationships, they're going to come to light. You might be witnessing your partner go through some really intense things if you are in a relationship. Um, if not, you can disregard that statement. Um, you might be going through some really intense things if you have stuff in the late degrees of Capricorn or the late degrees of Cancer, especially. Yeah. Good stuff. For some of the Capricorns out there, like myself, you might be experiencing some really intense health related things since the first house has to do with our health. Um, yay, all the things. My hope is that as Mars goes through this process, that it will help to burn away all of the bullshit and help you get to the root cause, like I was saying with Gemini, help you get to the root cause of what is the matter. But it's a long process. It's not a quick process. Um, as the retrograde occurs and Mars drags its ass through your seventh house, don't be surprised if you feel like there's some setbacks in the process, if you feel like maybe your partner's is experiencing some setbacks, and when you think you're trying to move forward, really you're at the mercy of somebody else's plan, really, at the end of the day. Um, so Mars will station retrograde at 6 degrees of Leo, move back to 17 degrees of Cancer, and then carry on its way. So, if you have any planets in the cardinal signs in the last 20 degrees, Mars is going to, sorry, in the first, my bad, in the first, no, that's right. Back it up. In the in the last 20 degrees, um, the Mars retrograde is going to be really impactful. If you have anything in those first 5 degrees of the fixed signs, also really impactful. Ew. Yeehaw. So what I think I see coming up for Capricorns with the Mars retrograde in particular, as it stations in the 8th house, again there's this theme of like what kind of ties do we have with others? What kind of obligations do we have to others and to us that like maybe need to be reworked, rewritten? Um, especially again if there's weird power dynamics playing out. And actually, as I was saying that, the first card came out for you, Capricorn, is the King of Pentacles. Prince of the Chariot of Earth. All right, Capricorn. So that's you realizing your self-worth and not wanting to put up with other people's bullshit. especially because you have these grand plans for yourself and for your life. So while Mars is retrograding through your seventh house, really, I feel like this is about assessing whether the people that are a part of your kingdom are going to help you build that kingdom or not. The That's perfect. Just dropped a couple of cards, especially with the new moon in the 11th. Um, it's a good opportunity to kind of like build out and flesh out your network, so to speak. And like I was saying about the 11th, it's it's still kind of funny to me that I got stuck on it, but like I was saying about the 11th, it has so much to do with people that somehow lift you up or organizations that help lift you up. Um, it takes a lot of planning and effort and time to establish a, a healthy, trusting relationship. I was actually learning this about business relationships the other day. It takes a long time to establish a really good relationship with a client or with just with another company, and it can be like overnight that you lose that respect. And it takes significantly more effort and money and time to rebuild that relationship than it does to just make a new one, which is wild. It's wild to think about, but it's true. Um, yeah. So the cards that fell on the ground, we have the 7 of Cups and the 4 of Swords. Capricorn, it's time to take a rest. The 4 of Swords can be indicating like it's time to take a bit of time for meditation. It's time to step back from something, put something to rest. And the 7 of Cups, a lot of Scorpio cards coming out today. Surprise, surprise. Um, I feel like, especially with the Mars retrograde in the 7th, this can really be talking to something that used to bring pleasure, it used to be fruitful, it used to be really nice. Yeah, shocker, right? It used to be really nice or felt really good or fed some kind of need, but that's the thing that needs to be put to rest. It's almost like Mars is very gently, ironically enough, asking you to step back or cut something off. And it's probably some kind of relationship dynamic. Whether it's like actual a relationship, whether it's a business partnership, whether it's like a relationship with customer client kind of thing, or it's something romantic. I don't know. It could be, yeah, it could be relating to a bunch of different things, but there's something here that like the well has run dry. That's the symbolism in this card anyway. The well has run dry and it's time to take a step back from it. And I think the 4 of Swords is really interesting because it's not necessarily insinuating that it has to be permanent, but definitely there's, like, a need to cut back on energy consumption, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know why all of these, like, business metaphors are coming to my mind, but it's working, so we're going with it. Um, and as the King of Pentacles, there's a need to manage those resources responsibly, and, as a Capricorn, this is something that you have to learn. And with yeah, especially with that Mars retrograde starting in the 8th house, it's like really assessing how much you give versus how much you take in when it comes to those shared resources. And maybe it's time to stop giving. or at least cut back significantly. Um, yeah, interesting. Covered a lot of stuff right there, but that's what I got. Aquarius. Okay, Aqua. 10th house new moon. 10th house has to do with, well, it's called the midheaven. It is your reach, it is your vocation or your career. It is associated with rank and authority, and it is a highly visible part of your chart. It becomes something that you are really well known for, whether that is actually a career or that like makes you money, or whether it's something totally different. You become known for things in your 10th house. So, a new moon here, quite simply, could be like you're starting a new project at work. It could be literally as simple as that. Um, for some of you, it might actually be relating to work, like career changes, big shifts in your career, but not necessarily. The bigger focus actually is going to be on Mars turning retrograde in your 7th house and then moving back into the 6th, and all those Pluto oppositions as Pluto moves into your 1st house for the next 20 years. So these Mars oppositions with Pluto are significant. They are going to be absolutely talking about, well, your relationship with others, really. Your relationship with yourself and your relationship with others. Coming from a Capricorn rising, I'm gonna tell you right now, Pluto moving through your 1st house is a long, slow, subtle change, and then all of a sudden a bunch of stuff happens all at once. And then, I mean, it depends. It also depends on like where your ascendant degree is. If you have Sun in Aqua, what degree that's at, all that kind of stuff. But generally speaking, Pluto's march through your 1st house, um, it will be a lot of changes over a long period of time. And it might not even be until we're like 25, 30 years into the future when you're like, wow, that time period, 2024 to 2030, something, whatever, was really intense. 2040, whatever, really intense. And actually, I changed so much. While you're in the midst of it, you might not even really notice. Afterwards, you'll see huge changes. But anyway, this first opposition between Mars and Pluto, you might not notice it really, really bigly. Really bigly. Yeah, that's a word, 100%. You might not it might not be super noticeable because it's in the 12th and 6th. But as Mars moves into the 7th, stations retrograde, and then connects with Pluto again at the 1st degree of Leo, opposing Pluto at the 1st degree of Aquarius, you are going to notice that. So I actually kind of feel like this is dragging stuff. So it's kind of neat. Okay. The 12th and the 6th house are hidden houses. You don't see them. This opposition and the Mars retrograde energy is kind of taking things from those houses that are normally hidden and pulling them into super visible, super noticeable, and somatically felt houses. It's kinda cool. So we're taking things that are hidden, like our hidden enemies, which is totally a 6th house thing, or our, things from our subconscious, which is a 12th house thing, and bringing them into the body and into our relationships and they're playing out there. So, gonna be an interesting, few months. Definitely. Um, yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that until I see the cards. What do we got for you, Aquarius? Oh, cool, an aqua card. So we have the 5 of swords, the Lord of defeat, and the 9 of wands, the Lord of great strength. Oh, underneath. Hello, Scorpio. Just as I was like, "Oh, no Scorpio cards." Never mind. Uh, nice. Oh, how beautifully symbolic is that, though? I was literally just saying, like, hey, this is something that's going to start out more subconscious, less obvious, and become obvious. Underneath the deck, the thing that's hidden is the death card. And that's cool. Okay, so 5 of swords, 9 of wands. To me, the 5 of swords is talking about realizing when you need to cut your losses and walk away from something or someone or a situation, but actually also realizing in that process the beauty that can come from being an outsider and being outside of whatever the fuck that mess over there is that you walked away from. So that's kind of neat. In conjunction with the 9 of wands, as you were exploring this more isolated, solitary path associated with the 5 of swords, you're realizing a great strength from within. That I think is really beautiful. I want to pull up your chart again for a second. Yeah, I think that I want to leave it exactly at that. I don't think anything else more needs to be said. That's perfect. The only other thing that I would add about the 9 of wands is that you don't become really strong overnight. You have to be tested. You have to test that strength. Um, with the transits coming up, you are going to be tested several times over and over. At the very least, at least twice with this Pluto Mars opposition on your first and seventh house. But those moments of um those really intense moments, possibly feeling like crisis, um, they are meant to test your resolve. They're meant to test your will. But Aqua, you just pulled the 9 of wands. You can handle it. It'll be good for you. It'll build character. You got this. Pisces. By the way, it is last call if you want me to do a reading. Send it in now because it is almost time to go. Okay, sorry, Pisces. So Pisces, for you guys, new moon in the ninth. Alrighty, so new moon in the ninth. The ninth house is called the house of God. It is the joy of the sun. It is most closely associated with religion and mysticism, with high culture and law. Interestingly enough, yes, law. Travel and learning are here, specifically long distance travel. The divinatory arts are seen in the ninth house as well, like astrology, for example. And that's weird. That's interesting, right? Because Modern astrology will tell you, "Oh, 8th house, Scorpio, 100%." No, 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 9th house. It's actually 9th house, according to Hellenistic astrology anyway. Fun fact of the day. So so the new moon in the 9th, um, very very simply put, this lunation cycle, you might be assessing some of your own beliefs, um, some of your own spiritual, some of your own spiritual practices, some of your beliefs, and honestly, it might very well tie into how you feel about children with the Mars retrograde going through the 5th primarily, and maybe even your health. This is kind of how Mars ties into the new moon. Those topics might come up and how you deal with them in association with spirituality or religion and how that ties into those things. So, um, yeah, Mars retrograde, actually, let me pull that back up. Mars retrograde. So first we have the Mars Pluto opposition across your 5th and 11th. Specifically, I'm focusing on Mars for this one because with Mars in the 5th house, I really feel like a big theme that's likely to come up over the next few months is how do I protect what's mine? It can be children, it can be a creative project, it can be a small business, whatever that whatever you have created for yourself that is covered by 5th house, how do I protect it? Um, and, like, what are you protecting it from, really? I don't mean to sound dismissive with that, I'm actually quite serious, but how do I protect it? There's, like, major mama bear energy with Mars in Cancer, so likely there's going to be something that comes up with that Pluto opposition where there's this feeling of needing to protect and nurture. So anyway, Mars makes its way into Leo, into your 6th house, house of health and illness, right? It is both. Retrogrades, comes back, opposes Pluto again, moves back into Cancer, blah, 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 comes back out, opposes Pluto again. This is a long, drawn out process where you're going to be looking at your own health habits. You're going to be looking at um, there might be some power and control dynamics that come up around children or around how you manage your own mental health, even. There might be different subconscious fears that you are forced to confront, honestly, um, with those Mars oppositions. So confront those things, uh, use that Mars energy to do the confrontation, do the thing, Pisces, you've got this. And I keep coming back to that 9th house new moon and this theme of like, what are your beliefs around creativity in children and how that ties into religion and spirituality? Hi, Nicholas. Happy Halloween. So, yeah, I feel like that's a really big theme, and I'm not 100% certain how that ties together, except that, how was religion and spirituality treated when you were growing up? And how is that translating into being an adult now and maybe raising your own kids? And, I get that idea of like, I don't want to do it like how my parents did it. And then there's all these subconscious fears coming up and these power and control dynamics with the Mars Pluto opposition. I'm really not sure exactly how to formulate that into major archetypes other than that. But anyway, let's pull the cards and maybe they'll help me form sentences 3 hours in. Oh, the devil card, of course. Lol. All right. We're ending strong. Yeah. Okay. So definitely there is major dad energy coming up. Um, wow, okay, so I need to sit with that for a second. So fun fact, in Jyotish, in Vedic astrology, the ninth house is associated with your father because the ninth house had to do with, and your father, his role was to introduce you into the religious practices of your culture. He was your first teacher, your first guru, your first guide, right? Ninth house has such big associations with teachers and guides. Thank you, Nicholas. And I think that's a really interesting thing to think about, especially with the ninth house being the joy of the sun and the sun having a father figure role. So this is where this ties in. If your parents have such a huge impact on your future practices, whether you are indoctrinated into a specific religion or whether you end up going a totally different way from them and it causes friction or whatever the story ended up being for you. Um, for some of you, you're now in the position of being that role for somebody else. Fifth house, right? Now you're in that role for somebody else. And now you have to assess whether you are going to play the same role that your parents did, or maybe you're actually coming to a totally new realization of why they did it the way they did. Take what resonates, leave the rest. With the devil card coming out, and I do kind of want to get some context, but with the devil card coming out, there's this major Saturnian energy there. Like, okay, um, you're now responsible for other people. Um, if we're talking about children here, or you're responsible for your own creative energies in general. And like, how are you going to use those in a responsible way? Especially when it comes to dealing with confrontation from the groups that you belong to. That's the 11th house time with Pluto. Yeah, I'd like some context. How does the devil tie in? A magician. S- Okay. The devil and the magician, you say? All right, Pisces, you're ending with some weirdness for me. Thank you. Thank you so much. Uh, I gotta look at the chart. Hold on. I gotta think about this. Okay, Pisces. If you want to manifest, I'm gonna drop it. If you want to manifest and you want to use some magical practices, ninth house, and you want to go the hardcore mysticism, spirituality route and do some crazy lunar stuff tomorrow and bring things into the world uh, through manifestation, you have to ground that shit in reality. Okay. This is the secret of the magician. He knows this, but also Saturn's in your first house. Um, you have to do it responsible because there are consequences. So interesting. So I fairly recently, this does tie in, I promise. I fairly recently joined like some different like chat groups, right? And Pisces, I feel like, yeah, I feel like this will I feel like this is an important message for you because it's tying in. recently joined some new kind of like chat groups, and they play with some woo concepts, some deep philosophies, some woo things, some alien talk. Like there's a little sprinkling of a bunch of different stuff, which is kind of cool. It's people from lots of different backgrounds, so that's kind of neat. Um, but anyway, a concept that comes up quite often is this idea of like non-duality versus duality, which is hilarious because that argument in and of itself is an example of duality. And they're like, no, 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 it's not about the non-dual, blah, blah, blah. I don't, I think it's so funny. Cause I'm like, you arguing right now. Anyway, off topic. So there's this, there's this one individual in particular that, is talking about like, oh no, we are gods, right? We are, um, gods that have chosen to forget that we're gods, to live out the human experience, to really experience being here, and our task is to remember what we are and manifest all of the things, and we can vibrate at any frequency in order to destroy any sickness in our body and all of this stuff, which I think is really fascinating, and I love listening to that stuff and thinking about it and practicing it, and like contemplating it and playing with those thought experiments. Um, but at the end of the day, what he's saying is like, okay, we're actually, we are all, we are everything, we are one, blah, blah, blah. Um, but not while you're in the physical world. So, not while you're in a physical body. We're not all one. Not while you're here. Um, spiritually, way the fuck up there, maybe. Um, but not while you're here. Devil card. Saturn in the first house. No, I have Capricorn all the way. So I'm like Earth, Earth, Earth. Although my Saturn is an Aqua. Anyway, not while you're here. Not while you're in a body. Um, the very nature of physical reality is extremely dualistic. Um, it is duality based. So with the devil showing up and with Saturn in your first house and with this really interesting kind of dynamic playing out with the ninth, I think these are things for you to contemplate right now, Pisces. And they're like really deep philosophical questions of like, do we exist in a duality? Are we all one? They're like really intense questions that I can't really answer for you. But the magician knows the secret of as above, so below, and as below, so above. It goes both ways. And that quote is structured like that on purpose because yes, we can affect physical reality with spiritual stuff and vice versa. It goes both ways. So I think it's really fascinating that you get both the devil and the magician for the last sign of the zodiac. Wow, that's really intense. Um don't forget, Pisces, that no matter what you end up um doing with this energy, with this ninth house new moon, there's always repercussions. No matter what you're trying to manifest and bring into reality and have appear in front of you, there's always a cost. That's the thing that kind of gets brushed over and ignored in some of those philosophical discussions is that there is no such thing as free lunch in the universe. If you're pulling energy, you're pulling it from somewhere. Where are you pulling it from? That's the question. Um, it's not just created out of thin air, it comes from somewhere. And yes, there is definitely an argument there for it's infinite, there's an infinite supply, and I really like that argument as well. But we live in 3D bodies. It comes from somewhere. Um, yeah, I totally didn't mean to go off on this crazy philosophical rant, but at the end of the day, the devil is the realization that you have to use the energy that you have in a responsible manner. And the magician knows this secret and he knows that it goes both ways. And for you, Pisces, when it comes to how that relates to you in the physical with your hey J-Lo, yeah, I'm still going. When it comes to you in the physical and how that relates to your own creative energy and how that relates to your relationship with children or any of the other things that the fifth house represents, being responsible with that energy is key because once you create something, you are responsible for it karmically. So, anyway, karmically and like literally. So, anyway, that was a really long-winded rant. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, I didn't really announce it. I apologize. I didn't really announce it anywhere. I was just like, "Well, Halloween, I'm gonna stream." I did I did schedule this ahead of time, but yeah, I'm really terrible at self-marketing, but I'm glad you made it in the last 2 minutes. That's cool. Okay. That was a lot. That was a lot. I feel like I didn't fully round out all of my thoughts there for Pisces, but you guys you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. Yeah, it's good to see you guys too. Um, okay, one last call. If anybody wants me to do a card reading or a transit reading, the books are open. I know I said last call already, but then more people showed up. And then I'm going to take off and go do some stuff. It's getting pretty late though, so you better chop chop. Do 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 do. JLo, I made a whole presentation and you missed all of it. I'm sad. Sad. Stacy did get you did get yours in early, and it was great. It was a good one. Happy new moon, everybody. Happy Halloween. Yes, Virgo is opposite from Pisces. Oh no, Stacy. Fuck. I mean, I do put a slide up when I get to a new sign, so shouldn't be too bad to go back and grab them. I'm so bad. I hate doing that shit on my own videos. One day, maybe I'll write it down or timestamp it myself, or I don't know. I don't know how people do it. Yeah. Yeah. Spooky. So spooky. Yeah, it's been wacky for you, J-Lo. Um, it was slow for me at work today, and then, just all of a sudden at the end of the day, I had a bunch of stuff to do all at once, and I asked my boss, I'm like, "Do you need me tomorrow? Cause it's slow, like, I'm literally playing with sticker designs, like, I don't need to be here." And he's like, "If you get this, this, and this done," I'm like, "Challenge accepted, motherfucker." And and then I stayed late to get it done, and then, rocked it out. I take tomorrow off. Hell yeah. You took today off, Nicholas? Really? I have cut back on cannabis so significantly in the last 6 months. Like, I don't even smoke once a week anymore, it's, like, once every other week, and I don't really have any particular reason why, just haven't wanted it. Oh, fair enough. Oh, Lo, did you do it through, like, Google, like, through YouTube? 'Cause I don't think, yeah, I don't think my, what the fuck? Not AdSense. I don't think the Google side's set up right now. Oh, yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I didn't even really mean to. I don't know. It's just like during the weekdays, it gives me too much of a cannabis hangover, and I need my mind to be sharp with what I do, and I find that it was just dulling me too much when, like, I really enjoy being really sharp at work, and then on the weekends, I just don't care for it. I don't know. Yeah. Towers of groceries, hell yeah, but no, fair enough. Fair enough. You can make that pyramid, hell yeah. Um, Yeah, wherever you sent that, JLo, I would cancel it and do it through live link. Oh, I see. Wait, hold on. Like through Wix? Oh, I think I see it. I think I see it, but it didn't give me a notification yet. Fair enough. Yeah, I'm not judging. It's been dulling me incredibly lately. And there it is. No, I got you, JLo. I got you. Yeah, it's just been it's lately it's just been dulling me, so I don't know. It wasn't even like a conscious decision. It was just haven't wanted it. All right, JLo. Do you want me just to pull a card? I feel like I feel like it works a little bit better with, for me anyway, it works with just a little bit of context. So what do you want me to ask? Or what do you want to ask, I should say. Well, that's creepy. Awkward. Are you a Taurus rising? I forget. What's your rising sign? I'm drawing a blank. Was Gemini rising? Taurus sun, right? Oh, you are about to go for a ride when Uranus moves into your first house. That'll be interesting to watch. Okay, what does JLo need to hear most right now? What does JLo need to hear about November? Have you been doing um okay, so I know you're like always in classes, always in courses, always studying and whatnot. But I have a question. How often are you doing things like going into your body and doing somatic processes or meditating or um like I know you don't live in a very lovely part of New York. So, like, going outside and taking a walk in the park, not exactly the easiest thing for you to do, but how often do you do stuff like that? Yeah, I think that that's, kinda normal. I think that's kinda normal. It takes practice. It takes practice to not just fall asleep. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Okay, so I pulled the 10 of cups, the hermit, and the princess of swords. Yeah. Yeah, literally the hermit. You're doing the hermit mode. That's good. I think that's good, honestly. So, 10 of cups, hermit, princess of swords. So doing the hermit mode things by backing away from some of the chat groups, Instagram, that kind of stuff, and even actually getting out of your head so often, I really feel like that's really beneficial right now and for the majority of November. Um, because it's actually helping you develop your discernment even more by not engaging all of the time in all of the chaos and noise that comes with being on different social media apps and in different chat groups and whatnot. I like that the 10 of Cups is coming out for you right now because it is telling me that November will be a really nice month for you to just take care of your damn self. Um, and provide nurturing to your girls and receive that same kind of love right back. I actually view that as a really positive card. I mean, typically it's read as a really positive card, but for you especially right now, I feel like that's a really positive card. And like the majority of November for you, I feel is going to be more about nurturing and self-care, but not in a like a narcissistic way, in more of a like, no, I actually really am taking care of my mind and I really am taking care of my body and I really am feeding my soul and my spirituality in a way that maybe you haven't before. I feel like the Princess of Swords coming out is also speaking of like whatever you were whatever you're studying right now is fine. Keep going with what you're doing, but there also comes a point with learning any new thing that you need time for integration of those things. So whether I mean, usually that comes along with like practicing them over and over and over again, practicing just like one or two concepts over and over until you get it and it's ingrained and it's in your body. Um, so maybe be mindful of that over the next month of like taking one or two of the things that you have learned to date and really just honing in on those. Um, because I know that you add in new stuff all the time, which is fine. That's cool. That's how you do Gemini rising. Um, It's what you do, and that's fine. But, also take time for the integration part. And yeah, massage a spa day. That'd be so nice. Um, yeah, take care of those, body necessities this month. And if you are feeling some of the intensity from, like, the crazy transits that are going on, uh, definitely take a little bit of extra time in November to really take care of the body. Like, with the Hermit card in the center of these 2 things, it's definitely standing out as, like, a main energy of take care of the soma, um, take care of the digestion, take care of the the purging channels to make sure that everything is clear and everything is still moving so that, as you're anchoring all of the intense energy that you do on a regular basis, that it's flowing through you and it's not getting stuck anywhere. Um, yeah, and I really feel like for November, there's a theme of like simplicity is key when it comes to the mental sphere. You want to keep it simple and like really just, like I said, hone in on a couple of things here and there. I like that. Yeah, weaving things together. But yeah, it's not about I don't think November is about posting a ton of things publicly for you right now. It's really about keeping it within because there's this internal process that's going on. Um and you're still like in this process of taking in and learning and it's not necessarily about bringing it out yet keyword. So, there's a big integration thing happening right now. And that's a big component of November, I'd say. Cool. Alright, my friends, I am tired now. Even your home was renovating? Oh, shit. Yeah, dude, keep it simple, especially while stuff in the house is chaos. 'Cause the hermit's like, purge the bad things. I can't help but associate the hermit with Virgo, and Virgo with the intestines, and needing to, like, separate the helpful from the unhelpful, and, like, how do you do that except through a process of, like, meditation and paying attention to the body and filtering it through the body. So anyway. Oh, bathroom first. Interesting. Interesting. That totally tracks. It's like open up the detox channels and then take care of the rest after that. That's kind of cool. I like that. Yeah, Virgo love, what's up? Okay, guys, I gotta go. 4 hours. Howling it. All right, have a good night, everybody. See you later. Happy Halloween. Happy Samhain. And any of the things that are relevant for this time period that you celebrate. I don't know. Scorpio season. Yay. All right. Good luck out there. And yeah. Peace. Deuces.